to add more depth to those rooms. And talking about this in the last hour with Wes and Chris, it's not just having bodies in the room. It's having enough quality depth at those positions to where you can rotate guys in and out. And that was one of the strengths of the defensive line a year ago, where South Carolina had enough talent, a lot of those guys now heading off to play in the NFL, that you feel like you could, rotate in and keep fresh bodies in there. What we've heard so far through spring practice, and saw a little bit of that in the spring game on Friday night, was obviously guys like Brownlow Dinley and Monkel Goodwine maybe being kind of the leaders of that group and saying, okay, well, there's your two starters, however you want to say, Group A on the defensive line. But you wonder, okay, what does that mean for the guys behind them? How many of those guys are quality enough additions in that room to where you can count on them to go out there and give you the same level of production of play as those other, two guys? Or are those two in, like Goodwine and Brownlow Dinley going to have to do a majority of the heavy lifting when it comes to playing on the defensive line this upcoming year for South Carolina? I don't know. We're going to have to see. And same thing at edge. Again, you got Dylan Stewart, you having him, but what happens on the other side? And again, you have potential with guys like Brian Thomas and guys like JT Gear, who you've seen production out of in time or at times from their time here at South Carolina so far. But can one of them or a group of them replicate the production that Kyle Kennard had a year ago, on the other side of that defensive line of scrimmage? You don't know. But, and I know, Carolina's being talked about as being in the running for this Bo Atkinson guy out of North Carolina. Don't know if you're going to get him or not. He'd certainly be a welcome piece. Don't know if he's going to be able to step in and have the same kind of effect as Kyle Kennard, but we'll see. So those are a couple of areas that South Carolina certainly needs to address when it comes to the transfer portal, over the course of this offseason. And again, if you find if there are other guys out there that you see are clearly good players that can be welcome additions to your team, you'll take them. But it doesn't sound like they're going to go out there with the, urgency and saying, oh, we got to find a wide receiver. Oh, we got to find another this, another that. Like, no, it's mainly on defense. And again, if somebody presents themselves to the portal to you and you think they can be a solid addition to what you already have, great. But as we know from a couple seasons ago where South Carolina needed a running back in the transfer portal in the spring cycle, they didn't get one. Because just because you want something doesn't mean you can go out there and get it. So it's going to be interesting to see how Beamer and his staff navigate the portal over the course of these next couple of weeks. Again, you just have to have your name in the portal by the end of the week. You can still be taken out of the portal at any time after that. And we'll see what finishing touches they can put on this 2025 team, while also hoping you don't lose anybody of substance. Again, you have Cam Pringle going in yesterday, but he's somebody that didn't play a whole lot last year. Could have factored in down the line as a starter, but wasn't in the cards for him to be one of those guys this year. So you'll see as they're continuing on these post-spring meetings and stuff with players, who else decides, hey, I don't see myself finding the field anytime soon. Let me go hop in the portal and try and find some playing time elsewhere, and what other position groups could be affected, hopefully only depth-wise and not production-wise.
I mean, that's kind of the spring for the most part. This Nico thing has kind of made it sideways, right?
Sure.
This is not typically the spring. You don't get the Nicos of the world out in the spring, actual starting quarterbacks who people have huge upside. It's just this thing has been and we'll get to it later, it's hilarious how it's turned out. But usually you get guys like Cam Pringle, right?
Yeah.
The dude looks at the depth chart, he has the meeting with the coach, and he doesn't like where he's at, and he's like, I got to go get a fresh start somewhere else, which is like, man, here's a hug, God love you, good luck, right?
Until some other well-known player tries to strong-arm their school for more money, which you would think the Nico situation would scare guys away from doing that. But, hey, we've got 3 more days for the portal to be open for somebody else to do that. So never say never.
Oh, no. Here's the thing about this. Is it insane? Yes. It's almost like some like crazy weird Michael Bay movie, right? Things are exploding and all. So there's no rhyme or reason to any of this portal stuff. But the good thing about it is it never stops surprising us. There's always something.
No.
There's always something, and so you just hope that something doesn't affect your team in a bad way.
Sure.
Right? It's like when you're running through the landmines of the NIL world, you just don't want to step on something that's going to like do something bad to your team. Now you want to take advantage of someone else's situation,
of course,
and get theirs. You just don't want to lose an important piece of yours, who all of a sudden walks up and goes, "You know what? Remember that deal we made? I don't really like it.
Yeah,
I want a new deal." And you just don't want that happening. But to your point, the Nico thing, the fact that Nico is going to get less money, maybe half of what he got at Tennessee, hopefully is the cautionary tale of A, know your leverage, B, be able to read the room. We'll see.
Well, and again, he didn't have much leverage because his production a season ago wasn't all that great. But what if there was a guy that did have a lot of leverage? What if there was somebody that did have a good, productive year? And it's like, hey, you're going to pay me $3 million. I think I'm worth $5 million.
But aren't those guys? I shouldn't say this because we don't know how everybody handles their business. But if you're a smart program / collective, aren't you already making sure those guys have all the love that they need so you don't run into the Nico thing to me? And look, we had Will West on from the Sports Animal in Knoxville, and it was a phenomenal conversation. And West was like, this was, he goes, look, every source I have tells me this was about the offense and about his future to get to the NFL. This was not about the money. And Wes said, I trust the people that told me this. And Will West is solid. He's not a goober who just makes up stuff. So if this truly was about that, and that was the reason he did this, it just makes it kookier because now all of a sudden, and there's whispers he was trying this in the winter and everything else. But at the end of the day, you should be taking care of your people to where they don't need to go and pull the stunt. Like South Carolina, it doesn't take a genius to go, we got to take care of Dylan Stewart, we got to take care of Lenora Sellers.
Yep,
right?
1A and 1B.
We got to take care of those guys. Like you look at Georgia. Who are you taking care of at Georgia?
Oh, God, there's quite a few guys.
Give me the core guys you go, we got to take care of in some way, shape, or form. We don't want to lose these dudes.
Man, you're making me blank. But probably quarterback to start off with, which, again, there's a debate on that with Gunnar Stockton and
Let's say Gunnar
and guys
Stockton
like that.
is the dude. Let's say Gunnar Stockton had a Lenora Sellers type of year, and he's got all this eligibility left and everything. Georgia's going to go lock him up.
Yeah.
Now, be honest about Carson Beck, since we're having the conversation. There was no way Georgia was giving Carson Beck that kind of money because they saw when you asked Carson Beck to do more, what happened.
Yeah, he struggled.
Yeah. So let somebody else overpay Carson Beck. And so that was smart by Georgia. But if Carson Beck would have stepped up and played his tail off to a huge level, guess who's still at Georgia?
Yeah, they would have paid him more. He probably would have gone to the NFL at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because if he'd have played really well, it's a good point, he would have been a higher on draft boards. The only reason Carson Beck's still in college because they looked at him and said, you know what, dude, you're a third-day draft pick.
He originally declared for the draft and then came back and said, oh, by the way, I'm going to Miami, which I was like, you can do that? Okay.
Well, I really believe that, and you follow it, as Carson Beck put in for the draft, and the NFL people went, you know what, Carson, you probably shouldn't pay attention to the draft till day 3.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, that's not good.
You're not hearing your name called anytime soon.
So then he wanted to come back to Georgia, and Georgia was set to move forward. Or he came back to Georgia and said, I want to come back, but here's how much money I want, because he might have got a sniff of what he could get somewhere else, right?
Right.
So and Georgia went, no, we're good. And so he ends up, but if Carson Beck would have played really well, either A, he goes to the NFL draft and is a first day or second day pick, or B, he's going to make his bags at Georgia.
Right.
This is like, to me, this is going to end up, especially with quarterbacks, going to be like the NFL. Typically, if an NFL team wants to keep you, you're staying the way it's structured, right? Whether it's franchise tags, we're just going to, we're giving you the contract you deserve coming off your rookie deal. They're going to pay you to keep you.
Yeah.
The guys that leave, they didn't want to keep. I think you're going to see that with quarterbacks in college football. The guys that you want to keep, you are going to pay and overpay to keep. The guys you really don't want to keep, hey, dude, good seeing you. All right, great, love you.
Right.
See you later. I think that's what happened to Carson Beck. I think that's what happened to Nico. Tennessee looked at what he did, and they went, we want to keep you at a certain level or a certain rate or a certain level of annoyance or whatever. And, Will also said that Nico's camp made the decision to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And Tennessee then did a great job of PR of saying, oh, we parted company. But honestly, if it was about money and Nico's camp said we want $4 million, Tennessee would have went, well, good luck.
Sure.
Good luck go finding it. So to your point, maybe the Nico tail will stop some people, but if somebody really is tearing it up, you would hope the smart school/collective would already have this wrapped up. And if this does happen to someone who's really good, Tyler, that means those people totally screwed it.
Yeah, or at least give them an indication that, hey, we've got you covered down the line. May not have it right now, but at some point you're going to get what you feel like you're worth. Those kind of things where, you're not running into these situations. And again, things obviously evolving and changing every second in college football. Who knows what's next?
Yeah, we don't know, but that's the fun. See, again, selfishly for people who do this for a living, this is gold.
It is.
This is absolute
gives
gold.
Stuff to talk about, and I'm thankful for it because, again, our baseball team's unfortunately
It's
not giving us as much this year as they have in years past, so we'll take it.
Yeah.
And again, we'll get into the specifics of the situation, but it's gotten even more nutty as the fallout and ripple effect of him going to UCLA unfolds.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it later. I find it quite entertaining the way this is going.
I do, too. I think it's funny.
It really is because, again, when you're not involved, you can laugh. That's the way I always look at this. All right, halftime show. Derry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare's here, hanging around. I'm going to tell him I watched the first 15 minutes of Severance.
Oh, finally.
Let me get some headset on, Dave.
Dave,
I'm going to say this to you.
it.
I'm going to say this to you, Dave. I watched the first 15 minutes of Severance, and I fell asleep. Tell me, Dave,
You fell asleep?
Dave, that first 15 minutes is, honest to God, like watching my toenail grow.
Wait, didn't you say you had to get through like an episode or two for it to pick up? Didn't you tell us that?
No.
The girl's laying on the big table. The guy's going, whatever, I got a quiz for you. She gets up. We see him crying in the parking lot. He comes in. She bashed him in the head with the speaker. Besides that, man, I was like trying to stay awake, Dave. Tell me it gets better. I'm going to go back and try to watch the rest of it. Tell me it gets better, Dave.
Millions of people all over the world love this show.
Well, they're wrong right now.
You didn't say it was going to get better, Dave.
Yeah. You didn't say it was going to get better, Dave. You just said
it's better. Every second of it's better.
I've offended him. Now he's mad.
Yeah.
Halftime show. Hear from Shane on a welcome home trip to Florida. It's next on The Game.
107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.5 The Game in Florence, and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. The Game Network, powered by Integrated Media. The Game TV, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. For auto, home, and commercial glass, shepherdsglass.com. In Chapin and West Columbia, The Game TV, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. Shepherd's Glass. 107.5 The Game, broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevy Studios. You can save up to $20,000 on new Silverados. Stop by or shop online today and see how Herndon Chevy makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
Men's Clinic of South Carolina is here specifically to help you, as you get older as a man, deal with things that you don't want to deal with that stink and suck and are awful. Things like, just at the gym, you used to be able to lift this. Now you can't lift it anymore. Your workout, you're sore for 4 days instead of 2. What's going on with me? I don't really have a lack of drive in any aspect of my life. I'm like, bleh, all the time. I can't remember stuff. I don't sleep as well as I used to. Maybe all of it's just low testosterone. It could be that simple. One way to find out. 803-875-MENS. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Call Dr. Dan and the staff. Set up a consultation. It's free. It's confidential. Tell them your story. If they think it is low testosterone, they'll do lab work. If it comes back low T, they will put you on a program specifically designed for you and only you. It's the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Make the call. Start feeling better. Could be just low T.
This is Monster Jam. Big Air. backflips, and all-out racing. Monster Jam, as big as it gets. The fun begins at the pit party, where you can meet the drivers, get autographs, take pictures, and see the trucks up close. Get your pit party pass at monsterjam.com today. Must have valid event ticket to enter pit party. Restrictions may apply. Rules and activities are subject to change. Visit website for event details. Coming to Colonial Life Arena April 26th and 27th.
Honey, would you take a seat? I have a confession to make.
What is it? What's wrong?
Well, I was out driving today and I saw some hookers on the side of the road. A bunch of huge, professional, beautiful-looking hookers. So I did what I was supposed to do. I slowed down and I moved over.
You slowed down for the hookers?
Well, yeah, it's the law. There was a whole fleet of Schroeder's towing trucks assisting with an accident. Wait, what did you think I was talking about?
Schroeder's Towing reminds you to slow down and move over for all first responders.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet, where the inventory's overflowing and the deals are in full bloom. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
It's Kubota Orange Days. From America's #1 selling compact tractor to zero-turn mowers and versatile RTVs, get your perfect match delivered to your door. Now through June 30th, get 0 down, 0% APR for 84 months or up to $3,000 off select compact tractors. See the details at KubotaOrangeDays.com.
Stop by Pioneer Farm Equipment in Orangeburg, 1 mile off of I-26 exit 154B, or at PioneerFarmSC.com.
Is your home looking a little dull and drab from a long, cold winter?
Well, good news. Lucky's Pine Straw can get your home in shape for spring. We offer full installation of longleaf pine straw and mulch in a variety of colors. DIYers, stop by and see us at 3119 Sunset Boulevard in West Columbia. No truck, no problem. We offer free delivery within the Columbia area. That's Luckies, Lucky's Pine Straw. Make it a lucky day.
You create beautiful flower arrangements, and customers love them. But when you're busy running your business, keeping up with reviews isn't easy. You need a boost. Cumulus Boost helps you collect, manage, and showcase reviews so more customers find you. Learn more at cumulusboost.com.
Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the Game Network and on the 107.5 The Game app.
Halftime show. Shane Beamer doing his welcome home tours in Florence. Dave, get ready to punch some buttons. Shane, again, talking about a lot of the stuff from the spring game and a lot of the off-season stuff. One thing Shane discussed was the meetings he's having with players. And, like, again, we have a meeting with Cam Pringle, and Shane's not disrespectful, but Shane will tell Cam Pringle, here's where you're at. This is where you're on the, in the pecking order, because there's no depth charts. Where you're at in the pecking order, and this is where we see you right now, and blah, blah, blah. And Cam Pringle probably walked out of there saying, I like to go somewhere where I get a better chance to play. And yeah, no harm, no foul. You just shake hands and go your separate ways. But Shane talked about these meetings he has with the players. It's cut 15, Dave, hit it.
I did 27 of them on Friday before the spring game. I did 33 today, and then I've got, I think, 20-some tomorrow, and then I'll wrap up on Friday. They've been good. I wouldn't say any, major surprises. They've all been pretty solid, I guess. A couple guys that I know Luz is out, a couple guys that just decide, or one guy today that decided to, move on somewhere else just because coming out of spring, he wasn't going to be in our 2 deep. And like he told me, I want to play and I don't want to sit the bench again for another year. And I don't like seeing anybody, leave that soon, and don't like, guys to make the decision after 1 year, but certainly want all of our guys to be happy with their role. So as we sit here today, everything's been good. I know there's a lot of excitement with our guys in regards to the 2025 team and the way that we're doing things and the way the program's going, and guys want to be a part of that. And certainly there's a lot of different conversations and elements and aspects at play. But the meetings that I've had in my office, everything has been positive, and we'll kind of see how the rest of the week goes. And I know this, when I get to Friday and the portal closes, I'll sleep well and enjoy the weekend for sure. So,
yeah, I mean, and there's Shane kind of talking about, guy wants to play. Cam Pringle wants to play, and Shane said there was a 2 deep. By the way, did you hear that?
He said there was a 2 deep. He also said, kind of alluded to somebody else. Where he said somebody else. Oh, but. So is there another name today or in the next couple of days that we can learn about? And yeah, there's no depth chart, but there's apparently a 2 deep.
There's no depth chart.
Apparently not. But and look, it's not surprising.
No.
In the conversations we've had, in the reporting that Wes, Chris, and Jack and everybody's done when they go out to practice, and everything they've heard from their insiders in the program, it didn't seem like Cam Pringle was anywhere close to earning one of these starting jobs this year. And yeah, he was a 4-star guy coming out of high school, and he's a big kid. So he obviously, garners a lot of attention from a physical presence alone, but he wasn't on his way to being a starter. And hey, guess what? He wants to play, and I don't blame him for that. Now, yeah, like Beamer said, does dipping out after a year maybe a little too soon? Sure, because he could have been a guy down the line, but you don't have to wait in today's college football, and he's not going to.
And, maybe you go to a Group of 5 school, get a better chance to get on the field because you are raw and you're a developmental guy. Maybe you go to a lower level, you get on the field, you start to play well. Guess what you can always do?
Go back to it, Power 4, Power 5.
Exactly. Transfer yourself back up. So, I mean, I get Cam Pringle, and I think what we've happened to, just from a fan perspective, we're now, I guess, because Cam Pringle's not going to play. No. It used to be anybody who leaves, I hate you, I hope bad things happen to your family. Now it's almost like, I think most smart fans go like this, guy wasn't going to get a chance to play, and he wants to go play, so
good luck.
Go get him.
And, if you're watching a, let's say, Coastal Carolina game later on this year, and he's out there playing tackle, and he gets a pancake or something like that, good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah, good to see him find his landing spot.
But again, if this is a important player for your football team, then you're still doing the old, I hate you, I hope terrible things happen to you.
If he transfers to the upstate to Clemson,
and it's a different ball game,
finds his way onto the field either this year or the next couple of years and becomes a problem, it's like, oh, hey, blank that guy.
Yeah, right. Or you look at Beamer and the staff, well, you couldn't play this dude?
Exactly, yeah.
What?
So again, it's different. And like you said, we've come so far in the evolution of just transferring in general, but especially the transfer portal, where you don't have to get angry and shake your fist at every guy that decides to leave your program. In fact, most of the time, you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I do the same thing, probably, Bubba. All right, so baseball against North Florida tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch here on the Game in Columbia, and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach as well at 100.3 the Game. All right, Paul Maneri giving us a little scouting report on North Florida. Let's get the cut forward, Dave. Paul Maneri talking about North Florida.
Yeah, the Ospreys from North Florida, Jacksonville. They got a good, solid ball club. They won 2 out of 3 this past weekend and scored 10 runs in the final game. So they got a pretty solid lineup, and we got Jackson Soucy going for us. He pitched really well last week in the middle of the week. I think 3 1/3 innings. To be honest with you, he may extend beyond that. We'll just have to see how the game goes. Hopefully he'll get us off to a good start and pitch as well as he did last week and give us a good chance to win the game tomorrow night. Every game is important for us. I know conference games have the most importance, but one thing I told our team today, before practice, that I'm really proud of them about this year is whether it was at the beginning of the year and we would sweep a non-conference series, or whether it was once the conference season started and we'd have a rough weekend, and this is the first time now we're going into a Tuesday game after winning a conference series. But the one thing I've been proud about all year is regardless of what the weekend before held, they always showed up on Tuesday ready to play and gave a really good effort. And a lot of teams around the country, you look and see some of the best teams in the country losing midweek games all the time. And our kids are taking pride in who they're representing, and they're going to go out there tomorrow night, I'm sure, and give a really great effort.
North Florida on the year, 9-9 in league play, 21-30 overall, 8-13 away from home. They just they won 2 out of 3. Was it West Georgia or something like that?
Yeah, they won the series against West Georgia this weekend and lost.
The midweek they got rolled by Bethune-Cookman like 14-3 or something.
Yeah, that's correct.
So there's a kid, Jacob Runnels, who has over 950 OPS. He's probably their best all-around hitter, 10 homers on the year, hitting 284, but slugging like 520. He's on bases around 430. So he's probably their best all-around offensive player. And really, honestly, he's the only guy in double digits in home runs. After Jacob Runnels, the next guy in the power department for homers is Cherokee Nichols with 6.
And again, they're primarily playing against mid-major competition.
Mm-hmm.
So, and look, we expect this team to beat mid-majors because they've done it this entire season.
And this is not a good mid-major team.
It's not a good mid-major team, so I don't expect South Carolina to have any problems. It is funny, North Florida is the team that beat men's basketball to start the year.
The Osprey.
I want to say, beach volleyball lost to them. There's been a couple of South Carolina teams that have lost to North Florida.
So the baseball team has got to go get the revenge.
Avenge those losses. Coach Paris needs to give the pregame speech like, guys, these dudes embarrassed to start our season. Don't let them do that to you, because we talk about no margin for error. Again, you got to win your conference games, obviously. You can't afford to lose any mid-majors here on out.
Oh, God, no. Well, you think about this, too, right? All right, you got Kentucky coming up, who's 8-10, but they took 2 out of 3 at Tennessee over the weekend.
Yep.
Think about that. Auburn is 8-8, but they're number 11 in the country. Florida's 6-12, but they've won 5 of their last 6 SEC games. Now, it was only Missouri and Mississippi State.
Yep.
And Missouri's won as many games as you and I.
Right.
But still, Florida's won 5 of their last 6 SEC tilts. And then you get, top 10 ranked LSU. So, yeah, you got 3 teams that are 500 or below out of your 4 series left, but none of those teams are going to be like, we got this with no problem.
Right.
These are going to be difficult series all the way through. So, starts tonight. Can't lose a midweeker, especially to a bad mid-major on a Tuesday. So, there's a little Coach Maneri. Just in case you just woke up, if you haven't heard, South Carolina's got themselves a basketball player on the women's side coming in through the portal. And, of course, there was some NBA. And please, Nico Harrison, stop talking about Luka. Stop it. You broke up with this one, and now you keep talking about it. Halftime show, Tyler Head, David Ayer, Terry Ford on the game.
107.5 The Game in Columbia. 100.5 The Game in Florence. And 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. The Game Network.
98.5 OMG is inviting you to join us for the first inaugural Gals on the Green golf tournament.
It all goes down May 5th at the Wildwood Country Club with 4-player teams at $200 per team.
And doing some quick girl math, that's just $50 a player.
9 a.m. registration, 10 a.m. shotgun start with a 9-hole captain's choice.
Plus a cocktail party afterwards with your chance to win amazing prizes from all of our sponsors.
For more information and to register today, visit us at WOMG.com.
If you have an IRS problem, getting accurate legal advice could help get all this behind you right now. Hi, I'm local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm. To get the best results for our clients, we stay on top of the law and the IRS rules and regulations. It's important to us to get you back on track and in compliance legally without worry for your future. At the Ecton Law Firm, we've handled hundreds of cases for everyday, hardworking people like you right here in the Carolinas. Don't face the IRS alone. Know your legal rights. Call me to set up your appointment. The first visit is completely free and confidential. You'll meet with a licensed attorney in person at our office in Irmo, just off I-26. If you're facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call me, John Ecton, at 803-771-9800. That's 803-771-9800. Or go to EctonLawFirm.com. Carolinas, if you have an IRS issue, You need a local attorney. You need me, John Ecton.
Clean the spring pollen and allergens out of your home the easy way with Zero Risk Air Duct Experts. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 1075 The Game and get $50 off your next air duct cleaning. Just use promo code AIR50 when scheduling online at ZeroRiskColumbia.com.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Springtime in Columbia. And if you own a business, you too can have the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield. Just ask Mike.
I was watching TV one night and saw the Rhino Shield ad. And I thought, well, if they can do a house, they can probably do a building.
Rhino Shield's not pain, it's better.
So they came out and they gave me a price, showed me how the Rhino works, how it lasts, and how the guarantee works.
Business or residential, get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
They waited for us to leave, and they worked Saturday and Sunday so they wouldn't affect our business at all. This was the great part of it. I came back Sunday night, and you couldn't even tell they were here. There was no paint on the ground. They did a fantastic job.
Here's owner Dan Hoey.
This offer is limited, so call today at 833-RHINO-99 or visit RhinoShieldCarolina.com. Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Paint, don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hey, Steven, did you know the readers of the Free Times voted Samuels Reynolds as the second best personal injury law firm in the Midlands?
I sure did, Jason. And the state newspaper voted us third best workers' compensation law firm. What do you think about that?
I think we want to be number one, so we're just going to have to work even harder. You in?
I'm in. Let's do this.
I'm Jason Reynolds, and we're the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm. We get South Carolina because we're true South Carolina. True injuries, true lawyers. 803-779-4000.
It's part sports.
We have football on the brain.
Part pop culture.
Dennis Leary. True or false? You refuse to wear a glove with Mickey Mantle's signature on it for the movie The Sandlot.
The Red Sox blood, the Bruins blood, they run deep.
And in the best celebrity interviews.
Robert De Niro here on The Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
Just got over a 24-hour virus.
The antidote is to appear on The Rich Eisen Show.
There you go. I would have just done it earlier.
And you've got The Rich Eisen Show podcast.
There is a medicinal quality to appearing on this program.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Just in case you just woke up, here's what's happening in the world of sports on the halftime show on the game. Sponsored by the Gutterman. Protect your biggest investment. Call the Gutterman at 803-791-7147.
All right, just in case you just woke up here on the game, Medina Okot is now a South Carolina Gamecock. She is committed to Dawn Staley's program, averaged a double-double and a block a game at Mississippi State. A true inside-the-paint type of player, which South Carolina needs badly. So Okot has committed to South Carolina, was here over the weekend.
Yeah.
And along with Gianna Neepkins.
She's been on the radar for a couple weeks now.
I tell you what, and there's no good look. Neepkins has got suitors. A high-level scorer off of the perimeter. We've talked about her. She's 50% from the floor, 40% from three, 89% from the line. That's Steph Curry stuff.
Yeah.
That's how good of a scorer she is. Again, she's got people that are chasing her, and I don't know if South Carolina will get her or not. But I'll say that even if you don't, with Okot and Latson, you have done some nice work.
Yeah.
You're better than you were last year on paper.
Sure.
If you could add Neepkins on the perimeter, And you've got Neepkins, Latson, and Raven Johnson starting, and Tessa Johnson coming off the bench. And then you've got Okot going along with Kitts, and you're just loaded. And Edwards.
Yep.
And if Watkins can come back or whatever, you're a better team than you were last year.
You'd be a better team to be just as deep, if not deeper, than you were a season ago. Again, Okot, 6'6", addresses that physical presence down low that you just didn't have this year. And again, women 6'5" and up don't grow on trees like men do, so finding that can be a little bit harder. And again, she kind of satisfies that need.
Yep. So, good day so far for South Carolina women's basketball. On the men's side, nothing new. We had our boy Mongolian Mike yesterday commit.
I heard Bill and Preston trying to pronounce his last name.
I came in, I said, guys, you're forgetting the V.
Yeah, don't forget that.
I said what I started doing yesterday was almost saying the name in two parts. That way, because if you say it, try to say it in one way through, you miss the V. You drop the V all the time.
Yes.
So you got to stop so you can say the V. Then you do the second part of his name. They were trying, man. They tried.
We'll stick with Mongolian Mike.
I like Mongolian Mike. Mongolian Mike. That's what the play-by-play guy was calling him. You and I were dying. We're like, Mongolian Mike. I like it. Because, the play-by-play guy went, I can't do this name.
Well, and look, it's one thing to read it off a starting lineup, and you're in the flow of calling a game and having to say it over and over and over again.
Right. But, again, that's a player who can do a little bit of everything, but he doesn't stand out, and he's not wow about anyone. So, basically, he's not the guy that's going to be your number one option on offense. He's not a guy that's going to facilitate your offense consistently. So, you still need a bucket getter and a point guard.
Sure.
That hasn't changed. And if you look at where South Carolina is right now on 3, in the transfer portal rankings, they're 35th in the country, and in high school recruiting rankings, they're 49th. Now, you'd like to be much higher in both. Let's just be honest. You're sitting in the lower part of the SEC in both. That's where you're at right now. Now, look, could Eli Ellis come in here and be a wow freshman? Sure. We've seen it happen before. But we looked over the scouting report of Ellis, and I've talked to people who've watched Ellis play. He is a shoot-first point guard, and there's not a shot on the court he doesn't like or doesn't think he can make. And that's great. He's got a ton of confidence, and he is a bucket getter. But he's also a point guard who, by the way, the weakness he has to get better at, facilitating and setting up for others, which is the number one goal of a point guard. So is he really a two guard in a point guard's body? We'll find out, but he's not a true point guard. So even if Ellis is a guy that can score for you, you still don't have a point guard because Michi's not a point guard. So, again, we'll see. There's still guys in the portal. There's still things you can do. But you got to get something done because you still don't have a point guard and you still don't have a number one option on offense unless you're going to rely on a freshman to come in here and be your leading scorer.
Well, and you really don't want to go into a season having to rely on that.
No, and the bigs you brought in, the big you brought in is interesting. Is he a twitchy, athletic, high motor big like you saw at Florida or Auburn? Scouting report says no. But the thing here is you got to have a point guard, and you really, like you said, go into the season with the idea that your number one scoring option might be a freshman. Because, look, I love Michi, and there's days Michi can score from anywhere in the building. He can stand next to the guy selling popcorn and hit a three.
Yep.
But there's nights Michi couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. It's just that's just Michi, and you can't rely on that. So right now, you don't have a reliable number one option on offense anywhere on your roster, or even who you brought. I like some of the guys brought in the portal. I like the kid Knox. I think he's a tough guy. He plays two ways, but he's not looked at as a leading scorer type. He's looked at as a guy that can score, but there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock. He's not the dude.
Yeah.
Or if you need a bucket, let's say it's a tight part in a game, and you need somebody to get you 2 or 3. Again, he's not that looked at as that type of guy. So work still has to be done on the men's side. But the women, if you could get Neepkins to go with what you already have and what you have coming back and what you have coming in recruiting with a couple of McDonald's All-Americans, you're stacked up and ready to roll.
Yeah.
You really are. It'd be nice work. Nice work. All right, we'll get this real quick, Dave. Cut 17, we're going to call for it in a second. Nico Harrison, the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, continues to talk. I think it's a bad idea. I think at some point Nico needs to stop talking. The name Nico is not going well in the last couple of months.
Now, to be fair, this wasn't a press conference. He was being asked these questions.
But there's an answer to these questions I'll give you in a minute. So Nico Harrison, once again, is being asked about Luka Doncic, who he traded months ago. And the Dallas Mavericks season is over, so obviously he's kind of like an exit presser. And Nico Harrison is once again asked about Luka Doncic. And then Nico Harrison says this about not fully understanding the popularity of Luka. Hit it, Dave. Cut 17.
I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, but really the way we looked at it is, you know, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and we would have been winning at a high level, and that would have quieted some of the outrage. And so unfortunately we weren't able to do that, so it just continued to, you know, go on and on.
Okay, we're not going to reinvestigate the trade. We're not going to reinvestigate all that mumbo jumbo. It's very simple. A, if you didn't understand how popular Luka Doncic was to your franchise and to your fan base, you shouldn't be the GM of the Dallas Mavericks. Let's start there.
Did you not see the 77 jerseys and hear all the cheers when he got introduced before every single game? That kind of like that's not a good mark on ownership. They're not paying attention to those kind of things.
I mean, look, it doesn't take a genius. You don't have to be running a Mensa meeting to realize how important Luka Doncic was and how popular he was in Dallas. Okay, number one. Number two, when you get asked about Luka, this is a very interesting, easy answer. Ready? Guys, I understand why you're asking that question, but we've really discussed Luka a ton here since the trade. We're moving forward. We're just going to talk about players on our roster. Next question. Done.
Yeah.
Done. Again, if I can think of that, and I'm about the fourth smartest guy on this show, and if I can think of that, why can't a highly intelligent man like Nico Harrison just look at the media and say, look, guys, I get you. I can't. I'm not a dog chasing my tail. I can't keep doing this. We're going to talk about guys on the roster.
I think it further proves the point. Just because you're high ranked, just because you get paid a lot more than everybody else, doesn't mean you know better.
No, you're right. And here's the other part. I'm going to say this. This trade obviously was not made without ownership approval. Because you don't make this trade of that guy without the ownership going, okay, Nico, we're with you. I will say this, and I have and we might not ever have any evidence of it, but I think the new ownership of the Dallas Mavericks either pushed this trade, and I think they did. I think the idea of these people don't know anything about basketball. They just bought a business that's very valuable.
Sure.
They probably went, wait a minute, $70 million for a guy to dribble and shoot a ball? Oh, no.
Like,
Make something happen, Nico.
He's actually pretty good at it.
And then, by the way, you're going to have to stand up and take the bullets for it, okay?
Yeah.
That's why we're paying you. Thanks. Just, Nico, stop talking about it. Quit being the guy talking about he broke up with the girl and he won't stop talking about her. Move on, dude.
Yep.
Just move on. All right, Firehouse Sub text the hour, 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. Terry Ford, David Ayer, Tyler Head, till 3 on the game.
107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.5 The Game in Florence, and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. The Game Network. Hate paying for streaming? Well, the 107.5 The Game app is free. Yes, free.
Time to get to our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What you got there, man?
Robert says, in reference to Cam Pringle entering the transfer portal, and go to App State. He knows the coach.
Yeah, he does. Look, you think about it for a minute. That's been a good, solid Group of 5 program for the most part. They had a little dip here recently. Last year, they popped back up again and won 9 games. That wouldn't be a bad place to go.
Or in the last year, they dipped.
I thought last year they won 9 games. Was it the year before?
Fire their coach and bring it down.
That's right. 2 years ago, they won 9 games.
Last year, they were legitimately.
Last year, they were legitimately
really bad.
2 years ago, they won 9 games and played for the championship.
Yeah, more often than not. And again, that's a program that has a history of national championships, the FCS level. We obviously all know about the Michigan upset. And, you know, since they've come up to the FBS level, they've consistently been one of the better teams in the Sun Belt. Obviously took a dip this past year, and you bring in Dow Loggins, and yeah, if he's looking for a Group 5 landing spot, that might be the first phone call that you make. And you know, obviously he's an in-state guy, came to South Carolina. Boone isn't that far up the road if you want to stay relatively close to home. So yeah, that could be a perfect landing place.
Like that idea. Who sent that text?
Robert.
Robert, good call. You know, you reach out to Cam Pringles folks. That's a good call. Go somewhere in a Group of 5, eventually get on the field, start showing something, and maybe you can transfer back up.
If he ever makes himself back to the Power 4 level and becomes a regular starter, that Pringles NIL deal has got to be on the table,
there,
right? Like it writes itself.
It does.
Same thing with, you know, I was expecting the same thing with Nick Pringle this past year. It didn't happen. But I was like, dude, it's your name.
Yeah, if he'd have balled out, he would have probably
grow the mustache.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hey, go all in.
Exactly.
Lean into it, man.
Make yourself undeniable.
Would have been funny if you did grow the mustache.
Yeah.
You just start going, hey, Pringles.
Look, I asked him, I was like, you like Pringles, right? He's like, yeah. Boom. Half the job's done.
You know what's funny? When I was a little kid, I liked them a lot. And then one time I ate like a whole can in like one
That'll
sitting.
ruin it for you.
You know what it did?
Yeah.
I didn't eat them for years.
Dave, this is going to offend you, but I can't eat honey buns anymore.
Well, neither can Dave.
I ate an entire box as a kid, and I got like halfway through it, and I took a bite, wanted to throw up, and I put the honey bun down and never picked one up again. Like the smell of them, like if you're fine eating them where you are, Dave, but if I were to like stick one up to my nose,
Would you turn colors?
I might turn colors because, again, it just brings back those bad memories of trying to knock down an entire box by myself.
I don't eat honey buns anymore. I lost 60-something pounds, in case y'all haven't noticed.
They are literal sugar cakes.
Do you think because you stopped eating honey buns, Dave, that you lost all that weight?
There might be a correlation.
You think there's anything to do with it?
Now, did you tell your doctor your honey bun consumption prior to losing weight? Was he like, hey, maybe we should cut these out?
No, but, you know, I did like honey buns, and years ago, on a different situation, on a different station, the morning guy asked me, Dave, you really love those honey buns, don't you? And I said, well, I like to get my 85 grams of fat in first thing in the morning.
They're phenomenal for breakfast.
We haven't, look, technology and science is crazy. They don't have a fat-free, sugar-free honey bun yet. Everything else can be sugar-free. Why can't a honey bun?
Yeah, but a lot of times when you make it sugar-free, you make it taste-free.
Well,
sugar is so important to the honey bun.
It's not going to taste the same, but like Coke Zero still tastes good. It's not regular Coke,
from you.
but it still tastes good.
No, it's different.
It's different, but it's not like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever tasted.
I can't do anything but just, you know, I'm straight up, give me Coca-Cola. Don't give me Coke Zero or Diet Coke. The one thing, I do like Cherry Coke, though. I'm not going to lie.
But that's still regular Coke.
Yeah, so I mean, I like regular. I can't do any of these zeros, diets, got that taste, that aftertaste to it, and I go, nah.
How'd you feel about New Coke back in the day?
That was vile. Do you remember that, Dave? Dumbest thing ever.
I remember it, but I'm going to tell you a secret you don't know.
What?
That Diet Coke is New Coke without sugar.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, they had all the formula. They're like, well, may as well dump it off in this other thing.
Suck the sugar out of it and make it Diet Coke.
And what does every woman in the world love? Diet Coke.
And my girlfriend drinks Diet
I don't
Coke.
mind Diet Coke. I'll drink it too. I don't go out of my way for it, but if you gave it to me, I'll drink it.
I can't do that, man. That aftertaste, man. Ugh.
My ex-wife would send me out at 3 a.m. Go find some Diet Coke now.
That might be an addiction, actually.
That might be a problem, Dave.
I might have to talk to somebody about that.
You didn't go, did you?
Yeah.
Was it the minimal amount of caffeine? Was that the kicker? Like, I don't get it. What's the addiction to Diet Coke?
This stuff?
I don't know.
What,
God
Dave?
help you if you went in the refrigerator and got one of hers. She knew exactly. There were 12 in there yesterday. There's
my
only 11 now.
Dave, there's a lot to unpack there. We're just gonna gonna move on.
I'm glad you don't have to deal with that anymore. I'll just leave it at that.
How much therapy did you get? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I had to deal with it Easter Sunday. She was there.
Dave, I think you're better off. Now
you don't have tea.
Let me ask you this. When you left, did you go, thank God? Thank God.
Let me say, I will stay less than 2 hours.
Dave, is that your first question on a date? Is do you drink Diet Coke?
Yes, I love it.
Hey,
Well, good talking to you. Have a good life.
We're not going to work out. I'm
Have
sorry.
Have a good life. Okay.
It's that dang voodoo doll, Dave.
Oh, how did that happen? Can I blame you for that? I don't know how that happened.
Sure.
Why not? I have to go listen to the show later and find out how we ended up there. Oh, man. Thanks for the text, like always, on the Firehouse Sub text line, 803-404-6100. Football and nothing but football coming up. We know this is the point where why do we should even have a conversation about the Nest, because I think after talking about the Nest for so long, I believe it's easy that you understand it's a go-to place if you want to get anything done with your home regarding appliances, anything in the bathroom, fixtures, lighting, plumbing, because you just want to go to experts. Because this stuff, last time I checked, it ain't free. You spend money to do these things for your home. So you want someone who knows what's going on, someone who can guide you, someone who can help you, someone who can say, I see where you're going there. Hey, did you think about this? Or, hey, I understand where you're going with that, but how about this idea? You want experts, and that's what the Nest has. 803-978-2025. Call, ask for an expert, do a consultation, tell them your budget and your goals, and they'll get it done for you at the Nest on the Vista in Gadsden. Again, 803-978-2025. Time to talk some football in the 1 o'clock hour, like always, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. Dave, get your finger ready there, or thumb or whatever, and get ready to start clicking. Shane Beamer doing the welcome home in Florence last night, talking about a bunch of different stuff. And Shane talked about, the portal and, looking to improve the team in all three phases. We'll start with cut, what are we looking at here, Dave? Let's go to cut 11. Shane talking about the portal needs for the Gamecocks on offense and special teams.
When it comes to playing in the SEC. And then offensively, really the same. Nothing really changed us, kind of solidified where we were. And we don't look at the offensive position and the offensive at any position necessarily say we have to do something. And then really in special teams, to answer your question, that was the position that, maybe you do something at kicker or punter after the spring, depending on how things go. But as I sit here today, we don't feel that way. I've met with all of our, Peyton Argent, Mason Love, and William Joyce, and that's what I conveyed to them is coming out of spring, we don't feel like we need to attack the portal for a kicker punter. Now, I'm not saying 1,000,000,000% for sure that we're not, but based on the way that those guys kicked and punted in the spring, we're young, and that's a little concerning as you go into the season. But those guys are made of the right stuff and eager to kind of see them take the next step through the summer.
All right, and the reason I wanted to play that cut first was we had a long conversation about this yesterday.
Yep.
Do you check the portal for a kicker if you're not happy? Because Shane, now that's a little different today that we're hearing than coming off of the spring game, where he didn't sound very confident about his kicking situation at that time. And we were saying, Mason Love, is he going to kick and punt? Because, he banged that field goal in the spring game.
Yeah.
And then they did a little pressurized thing. We're going to play a cut from Shane about that, which was kind of cool. Brought everybody around, and all the fans were screaming and yelling as the kickers were trying to make field goals. 2 of the 3 made their kicks, and the other hit the crossbar.
I think Argent
hit the crossbar. So, and again, it's more than just that. It's obviously what happens in the practice. But we looked in the portal, and it was no kickers available. They're all committed.
7, I believe.
Yeah, it was 7 kickers, and all 7 were committed. So, and if you're Shane, maybe that's why the change of heart is like, okay, there's nothing in the portal. We got to ride. We got to ride with our guys. And you pump them up. You look in the portal, you see there's nothing there, and you want to pump your guys up, make them confident. Say, look, we're not going to get anybody in the portal. Now, look, not right now, and that could change, but the way we feel is we're going to keep going with you dudes, and you make them feel more confident, you move forward. It feels like from what little we've seen and heard, Mason Love has a really good chance to be the kicker and the punter.
Yes.
And then could that change? Sure, but that's the way it feels right now. Am I correct?
Yeah. Again, that's not the most insane thing. It's something that's not quite as prevalent today. You do wonder about fatigue for somebody like that, because that's handling twice the responsibility over the course of a game for an entire season. So, I'd say if he got hurt, then you're really in trouble there. He obviously came in as a punter that did kick in high school. So that tells me that, it's not surprising that he's leading the way in punting, had the 74-yarder in the spring game the other day, but clearly these other 2 guys, in the battle at kicker are not up to snuff. And until proven otherwise, it seems like he's going to be the guy to take it.
So we'll see where it plays itself out. But as of now, Shane's saying, hey, you know what? We're good where we're at right now with our kickers. So... it was kind of cool bringing everybody around, and they were doing all the screaming and yelling and making noises. The kickers were about a 40-yarder, I think it was, a 35, 40-yarder, something
40,
like
45,
that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So a tough kick, and then, Beamer had the crowd getting into it and make a lot of noise, and teammates around him and all that kind of stuff. So there was pressure on them, certainly. And again, when you're competing for a spot, every kick that you make or miss certainly matters there. So, that's part of the process. But as we've talked about, like last year, where Alex Herrera was not really pushed as much because it kind of seemed like it was his job the entire time, but you knew that, okay, he can make 1 million kicks in practice, but he's got to start making them in games. And when he came into some big pressure situations against LSU, Alabama, and teams like that, he missed some pretty important kicks. Now, yeah, he made an important kick at the end of the season against Clemson that obviously helped South Carolina win that game, so he wasn't completely bad in those situations, but you obviously needed him to make a few more kicks that could have drastically changed the course of your entire season. So how do these guys step up in those situations is going to be the big question.
Yeah, and look, they did special teams reps, whether it was punting and some return stuff and then the kicking during the spring game. And let's get cut 13, Dave. Shane talking about the value of special teams reps in front of the crowd Friday night.
Good. It's invaluable. All that stuff that we were able to do in front of a crowd was huge, whether it be covering kicks, snapping, punting. We obviously need a lot of work at catching punts. We didn't do very good with that, and we had been. But to be able to, put some of those guys, because so many of those specialists you're talking about, that was the biggest crowd they've ever performed in their life, because it's their first time playing in front of a college environment or playing in a college stadium in that environment. So they need that, certainly before you do it for real in the first game, but to be able to get them some work in front of a crowd under the lights was really beneficial, but shows us where we need to improve and that we need to continue to work at it without a doubt. But we wanted to create pressure situations like the 3 kicks. We had done that the Saturday before in our scrimmage in the stadium, and we had 300 some women that were here for Our Ladies Day. They were screaming and yelling, but outside of that, it wasn't quite the same as what it was the other night, although the ladies did awesome. But we had the team come out 2 weeks ago like we did last Saturday, and then the team to come out and the crowd to get into it. It was good to kind of see those guys respond like they did, and we can't put those guys in enough situations like that and try and expose them to, a pressure kick, because as a specialist, you don't get first down, second down, and third down. You get one shot, and you got to be able to take advantage of that one shot, whatever it is.
Yep, and we talk about special teams all the time. Yes, you want special teams to help you win games and make big plays and all that, but the last thing you want is special teams to be the reason you're losing games.
Right.
So we'll see where it goes. But right now, that's where everything stands coming out of the spring for Carolina special teams. All right, Dave, let's get one more in here from Shane. We heard about offense and special teams. Now let's get to cut 10, assessing the portal needs post-spring for the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, in different ways, you're exactly right. When the portal closed, you look at your roster and you say, okay, we feel, pretty good about everything, but we feel really good about this position, but could certainly feel better if we were able to add some guys at this position. And it's like I've told some of the players on our team, when I say that about certain positions, it's not saying that we're not good enough. It's just saying from a depth standpoint, we're not where we need to be. Like every program, we have target numbers that we want to have on scholarship at every position, and there's some positions that we're below that right now. And does that mean we're going to attack the portal? Maybe, maybe not. But as far as the spring goes, you look at it, we feel really good about where we are from a defensive back standpoint, and some of the progress of some of the young freshmen makes us feel better about that, and the new transfers, the way that they've come in, and you were kind of in a wait-and-see mode going into the spring. Feel really good about where we are at linebacker with the returners that have taken steps, a guy like Jaron Willis or a freshman that's come in, all of them, or transfers that have come in with Sean and Justin. Defensive line and defensive end and defensive tackle, that's a position that just numbers-wise, we're not where we need to be right now, just overall depth. So I felt that way, going into the spring, that might be a position that we look to add. If we don't, it's okay. But at the same time, when you've had some injuries up there and you don't want to necessarily rely on true freshmen at defensive tackle, that makes you think about things. But I do feel better about the defensive line and defensive tackle position than I did going into the spring because of the way some new guys performed. Gabe is here with me tonight. He had a great spring at defensive tackle. Monkel Goodwine had a great spring at defensive tackle. Nick Barrett. And then at the edge position, we all know about Dylan, but Brian Thomas and Desmond and Anthony Addison from Sumter we're really excited about. So seeing what those guys did in the spring make you feel better about up front on defense, but still concerning at certain spots, just overall depth.
Look, he went over the whole thing with the defensive line, and they probably still want to add a little something if they could from defensive tackle and edge. We've heard of Bo Atkinson, who, again, there's interest with South Carolina. But Atkinson also going visits to Georgia, Ohio State.
He's a hot commodity.
Yeah, he is. And
so no guarantee.
In the spring portal, a guy with 11 and a half career sacks or whatever, all of a sudden people go, wow, that guy. And it's timing. If Atkinson comes out, in the later in the year portal deal in the winter, there are a lot of guys who probably are stacked higher than Bo Atkinson, but right now, when you look in the portal, he might be the number one edge guy easy.
Yes.
Just out of circumstance.
Because, again, this is the time of year, similar to Camp Pringle, where a lot of guys go through spring practice, come out and say, hey, I don't think I'm going to get much playing time this fall. Let me go find somewhere else. So anytime there is somebody that does have a level of production, again, Nico's very much an exception to the rule here. Everybody kind of is like, oh, hey, this is the guy top of this position or top of whatever. But in a relative sense, compared to guys that moved all around back in the December window, which, again, is just about everybody at this point, they're not always going to be able to stack up the same way.
No, and that's okay. That's just the way this thing plays itself out with the two portals. You swing back to what Shane said about players, and obviously, our boy Dindy had a nice good spring game. He spent a lot of time in the backfield again against makeshift offensive lines. Goodwine's had some really nice moments in the spring as well. Nick Barrett's been around, I feel like, forever at this point. And now we haven't heard anything about Hardy, to be fair, but they're hoping, if not this year, then you get something from Hardy the following year. But look, it's still spring.
It is.
Long way to go.
Remember, Xavier Hardy is going up significantly from junior college, where he was wrecking shop and dominating everyone, was the SEC. So there's no guarantee that he's going to be able to translate that game, and it may take a while. Like you said, it could be a next year type of thing.
Remember, you look at Gabe and you look at Goodwine, and there are two guys who are highly, highly thought of coming out of high school.
I think last year's defensive line situation was so good, and majority of those guys can be playing in the NFL here by the time the fall rolls around. I don't think anything that you have this year is going to be able to stack up to that. Like, it can still be good, but I think last year was almost not a perfect situation, but pretty darn close to it in terms of the depth and the quality of talent that you had to be able to, again, rotate through, do the hockey line shifts, and make sure that you were using multiple bodies in that room as opposed to exhausting 2 or 3 guys the entire season.
It's a shame that DeAndre Jules wasn't coming in this year.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, Jules, he's got all the size and athleticism to be a solid interior defender, and we saw it in bits and spurts through last year. He just didn't get a lot of reps. But it's a shame because this year he'd get more reps in a rotation with, like, a Dindy and also a Goodwine and a Barrett. But you got 3 guys right now, and you're hoping maybe Hardy can step up and be the 4th. But right now you got 3 guys you're looking at in rotation in the interior of the defensive line. So
right.
We shall see. All right. Right now, portal news for South Carolina. We know Camp Pringle's out. No one really rumored hot and heavy to come in, but we'll keep our eyeball on that because you never know, because it's always changing. Like, it could change while we're talking.
It could. I have to constantly refresh Twitter and the websites because you never know.
You never know, man. All right. Football, nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. It's like the Tennessee Volunteers and the UCLA Bruins made a trade for quarterbacks. Let's examine this next because it is interesting. And really, also in this deal, it's a 3-team deal.
Yes.
Because Arkansas traded a quarterback too for UCLA.
Yeah, kind of.
It's interesting. We'll get to it next. It's a halftime show. David Ayers punching the buttons. Eating honey buns. Tyler Head's hanging out.
We know he's not drinking Diet Coke.
No, he's not. If you put a Diet Coke on that counter, he'd probably roll in the fetal position and cry uncontrollably.
Or just get really angry.
Start raging.
I wouldn't want to take the risk.
It's a halftime show. More football on the game coming up. Talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. All right, so follow me here.
All right.
So our boy Nico hits the transfer portal at Tennessee.
Correct.
And UCLA was in the mix pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah.
So Nico ends up at UCLA. Now, before Nico ended up at UCLA, the Bruins went out and got a quarterback named Joey Aguilar. We talked about Appalachian State.
Yep.
Aguilar's been the quarterback at App State last couple of years. 2 years ago, very successful. They won 9 games, went to the conference championship last year. Everything went, and now they got a new head coach. We know him, some guy named Loggins. Aguilar hits the portal, lands at UCLA. If you're Aguilar, you're sitting at UCLA, then you see Nico come to UCLA. So if you're Aguilar, you're obviously want to get the heck out of Westwood.
Yep.
Now, something tells me, just spitballing, that Aguilar could have been sitting maybe, I don't know, hanging out at Chipotle. Some guy walks in a trench coat, sits down and says, "Oh, you're the quarterback at UCLA? Well, yeah. Well, did they just get a guy? Yeah. So, would you like to be a starter somewhere else? Yeah. I know a place that wears orange. Just saying." I have a feel. Now, again, could that have happened? Sure. But it's so funny that Aguilar hits the portal, and the minute he hits the portal, where's he end up, Tyler?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Because they had a opening themselves, and, they had a freshman coming in, and Jake Merklinger coming back for a second year after playing in basically mop-up time, last year. But we talked about this when all this happened the other week, that, Tennessee didn't come out of this a winner, because they had to go back to square one for their quarterback situation. And again, there was a reason why Nico was the assumed starter, because these guys weren't exactly pushing him going through the spring. So it's like, okay, now let's go out the portal and see what we can find. And again, the portal this time of year is not where you have a lot of high-level production guys, but by Nico going to UCLA, that forced who, and he was a fairly sought-after guy in the portal cycle back in December, and Joey Aguilar, it's like, well, now I can't play here, so let me go to Tennessee. So, yes, we have our first unofficial, official trade in college football.
And then Nico's little brother, who okey-doked UCLA after committing there verbally to go to Arkansas, said, "Oh, my brother's at UCLA. I think I want to go too."
What does this say about UCLA that they were willing to obviously bring in Nico after what his little brother did, and then allow the little brother to come back anyway after he just murked them on signing day 4 months ago?
Here's my question to your point. This is UCLA selling their soul to get what they think is a high-level quarterback.
1,000%.
Mm-hmm. And here's the other part is Nico did not play like a high-level quarterback last year. He was okay.
And that's the thing where, and look, I don't expect Joey Aguilar to go out there and be all SEC or a Heisman finalist, but I feel like he's in a better situation with better talent around him as opposed to UCLA. And I ran through it the other day. They're losing their top 2 rushers. They're losing 5 out of their 6 leading receivers from a year ago. They've got a first-time play caller in Tino Sinceri at offensive coordinator. If I'm Nico, again, I didn't exactly put Tennessee on my back and lead him to the playoff. I don't know how successful he can be there because there's not a lot of talent around him.
No, basically from what Will West said from the Sports Animal in Knoxville, they want to run a more pro-style offense because they think that's how Nico's going to shine. My pushback is just this. Maybe he will, but that Tennessee offense, nowhere near as complicated as an NFL offense.
It's the most quarterback-friendly offense in college football.
It's quarterback-friendly. It's, for everything I've read, it's very easy to run. You're not doing a ton of pre-snap stuff. You're not getting, you're just basically you're reading the wide receiver who's reading the DB, and everybody gets on the same page because they all know what they're going to do. It's very simplistic. And if Nico struggled running that, now you're going to come up here and you're going to start doing pre-snap reads and you're going to go progressions and all this other stuff to show the NFL. Really? Okay. And like you said, with a not a wealth of talent at UCLA to do all this.
Yeah.
And a play caller who's never called plays and was kind of a quote-unquote wink-wink offensive coordinator at Indiana.
Sure.
So, good luck, Nico.
Which, I got to say, Cignetti was calling the offense at Indiana.
Yeah, it wasn't Sinceri. So, long story short, Tennessee gets a starting quarterback. doesn't have the ceiling of Nico, but has been productive in college football on the G5 level. You got him for probably half the money you're giving Nico. Nico goes to UCLA getting probably half the money he got at Tennessee.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there you go.
And Joey Aguilar is going to make about half of what Nico was making. So Tennessee ends up winning out in the end when it comes to what they paid for a quarterback.
Exactly. So right now, winner, Tennessee.
It seems that way. And again, it's not like Nico's transferring to an easier conference. It's the Big Ten. And guess what? Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State. There's a lot of tough competition that you're not going to be able to walk your way through and get to a conference championship by any means.
I'll tell you something interesting I read about UCLA in The Athletic the other day. You know that it's not a secret that UCLA has been hemorrhaging money as an athletic department.
Yeah.
I think the number is $200 million in the bad over the last 4 or 5 years. But obviously they've gotten the Big Ten money and all that other stuff that helps them. I saw what they do, though. They put the athletic department in the school budget. So technically, the athletic department isn't losing money.
Okay.
You know, it's basically kind of a shell game.
Sure.
And now with the Big Ten money, now UCLA's in a better spot to go out and make some moves in the NIL space when you get to rev share because, A, the athletic department is just sitting there going, well, you know, because if you told me the athletic department didn't put in with the university, the athletic department basically would have to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah. That's
how bad they've been. But because that's my thought when I saw UCLA had 2 quarterbacks they're paying 7 figures to, and they're making these moves in the the NIL space. I'm like, isn't that the program that's like lost a boatload of money? But that's how they're pulling this off. I was reading about in the Athletic. It was kind of interesting.
Well, you know, they do have some pretty rich donors, I would imagine. They're a pretty good school. A lot of doctors go to UCLA.
Really good academic school is UCLA.
That helps.
It's just, you know, their buy-in besides basketball has just never been. Look, it's so funny. It's such a different culture. They actually care about volleyball, and swimming and things like that on the West Coast, where we go.
Because you're across the street from the beach.
Yeah, I was like, who cares? But they care about non-revenue generating sports, and so their buy-in to football has always been. And you sit back and you go, but you're UCLA. You should be good at football, like perennially good. And they're not, and they don't seem to really care deeply that they're not into it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they want the basketball team to be really good.
Sure.
So when we get to rev share, it's going to be interesting to see what UCLA does in the money they give to their basketball program, men's and women's, because their women got to the Final Four. That's what's interesting to me about UCLA. But if you're going to be in the Big Ten, and if you go like this about football, then you're going to get destroyed.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be Purdue, Northwestern. You're going to be at the bottom very quickly.
And the other part of that, so we look at LA. UCLA goes like this about football. Southern Cal's all in on football, and they've been nothing special here lately.
Yep.
Think about that for a minute. Southern Cal football is LA's favorite football team.
Well, and Lincoln Riley has quickly figured out that, hey, you know, just putting up a lot of points on offense and winning the Big 12 by a landslide, I can't exactly do that here. I got to play some defense. And I give him credit. He did rethink his philosophy this past year, but it's not an overnight thing.
The honeymoon for Lincoln is done.
Oh, yeah. This is a critical year for him.
Pretty important year for Lincoln Riley. We talk a ton of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We will focus on the NFL. We'll give you our little Gamecock projection about 2 defensive linemen, Tonka Hemingway, get him in there, and also DeAndre Jules, who we talked about a little while ago. So we'll get to that next here on the Halftime Show as we go up until 3 on the game. What we're talking about is a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Halftime show. All right, so if we look, we've been trying to catch up with some of these draft breakdowns for the Gamecocks, because it feels like definitely 4 guys are going to go in the first 4 rounds, it feels like. And then after that, we'll see who goes maybe day 3, something like that. We've been discussing, like Rocket Sanders, could it be a day 3 pick and running back? And we've kind of gone over that. Defensive tackle-wise, TJ Sanders should go in the 2nd round.
Yep.
Then you look at the next one is Tonka Hemingway. And Tonka Hemingway is projected 6th, 7th round, undrafted rookie free agent, somewhere in that section. And really, the problem is he's a tweener.
Mm-hmm.
Not big enough to play the interior, not twitchy enough to play the edge. And, and Dane Brugler and his crew at the Beast basically undersized for interior work. And the NFL teams will run at him, double him, and he'll have a tough time holding his ground. And he's not quite, again, twitchy enough to go play the edge. But he moves well for his size, has a really good feel for the game, and when it comes to instinctive stuff on the football field. Best fit will be a scheme that helps keep him clean, and potentially he might end up playing more outside on the edge and in the interior. You just got to be a team that can take Tonka Hemingway because he's an athletic guy for his size, moves well, and made a lot of big plays at South Carolina over the years. But for NFL purposes, again, he's tweener. Mm. So if a team can look at him and say, okay, in our system, we can use his skill set like this. That's a team that could probably take him and Tonka could have hang around in the NFL for a good bit.
Yeah.
It's got to be the right team and the right scheme.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, he gets to the NFL, how much more can you do in terms of adding more to him, weight, muscle, that kind of thing? You don't know. Finding kind of the right situation to stick it in. He's another guy that we bring up that maybe being an undrafted free agent might end up working out better for him as opposed to being a 6th or 7th round pick where he can kind of pick a situation and go to a place that would benefit him better than just being picked up by a team late and then having to fight to make a team in a situation that may not benefit him.
And then we look at DeAndre Jules. He's that guy who walks off the bus. That guy's a player. Look at that dude. I mean, like Brugler and his guys at the Athletics saying Jules aces the eye test, has size, lower body quickness. You get off the ball pretty fast, things of that nature. But, it's the other stuff. It's the technical skills. It's the football stuff. He just, he plays a little slow, doesn't react as quick. Technique-wise, he needs some work. But he is a guy who, if you look at the physical components, someone could take him late in the draft, make him a developmental player, maybe practice squad him, and then in a couple of years you look up and see DeAndre Jules on the field in the NFL.
Sure.
Because physically he's got the good size-wise to play the interior, which is not what Tonka Hemingway has. Mm-hmm. If you gave Tonka Hemingway DeAndre Jules size, Tonka Hemingway would probably be a much higher draft pick.
Sure.
But so it's kind of interesting. Jules has all of the eye test stuff, but some of the football stuff he's still not, because he's a late bloomer.
Yeah.
In all ways. Tonka, veteran guy, he's played a good amount of snaps, but size-wise, he's just going to be a tweener. So there you go. And we will do our last one tomorrow on O'Donnell Fortune. We'll get to O'Donnell Fortune tomorrow. So that's where that's at. And if you talk about the draft, as we talk football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Very interesting little bit. We always talk about quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
That's our thing. Everybody's, okay, how are quarterbacks going to play themselves out in the draft? Quarterbacks taken in the first round. And I was just looking at a couple of interesting things. I always say it's a 50-50 crapshoot. I was looking at a couple of different, research pieces on this. Really, it's not. If you're looking at a guy to be your franchise quarterback, out of the guys taken in the first round over the last, 15 years, I saw the study, really it's about 40% make it and 60% don't as franchise quarterbacks, which is why you're drafting them to be your franchise quarterback. So I thought that was interesting. It's become a below 50-50 of the guys you take in the first round. And why? It's easy. You take quarterbacks you shouldn't take in the first round. Josh Freeman. Why in God's name you take Josh Freeman in the first round?
His name I hadn't heard in a while.
How about that one?
Yeah.
I mean, and we sit back and we look at, there's a multitude of quarterbacks. If I went back and said, okay, remember this guy, you're going to go, who? Jake Locker. Might as well have taken Jake from State Farm in the first round, right?
It was him, Cam Newton, and Blaine Gabbert that were who do you choose? Well, the Panthers made the right choice.
Yeah, and it just...
And Gabbert even hung around for a while as a backup.
Gabbert has been a backup in the NFL for a good bit.
He's made his money.
I love Locker. Locker went like this. I can't do this.
Locker
just quit.
God, he was in and out.
I'm done.
Years.
He's like, I'm done. I suck. I stink. I got my rookie deal. I'm done. I saw another interesting thing. CBS Sports went over. So what was the time frame of this? It was an interesting time frame from the year 2000 to 2019. 91 quarterbacks entered the league and became full-time starters at some point. And they broke it down of who started right away, right out the gate, their rookie year, who became a starter weeks 2 to 8, who became a starter weeks 9 to 16, who became a starter in week 2, week 3, week 4 plus. If you look at, again, a lot of these circumstances were some of them were kooky and, but if you take all of the numbers together, and if you look at no wait, started games 2 to 8 in his first year, 9 to 16 in their first year, started year 2, year 3, year 4, almost all the numbers across the board, the guys who waited the longest had the better numbers.
Makes sense to me.
I was going to say, are you stunned by that at all?
No. Again, the transition from college to the NFL is difficult. Not everybody can do it, and I get it. There are some teams where you don't have any other choice. You're bare in your quarterback room. You got to draft a guy and throw him out there and hope for the best. But there's a reason the Packers have been successful or consistently successful for the past 30+ years, because every time they get a quarterback, they allow him to sit, they allow him to develop, and then when it's their time, they move on from whoever's starting ahead of him, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and let the other guy take over, and it's successful. Like, they've got a history of doing that, and that's why they consistently win 10, 11 games, make the playoffs. Obviously, they won Super Bowls in that time as well. And, again, if you can follow that model, you'll probably be successful too.
I'll just take quarterback rating. I won't kill you with a bunch of stats, but in quarterback rating, the guys that either started right away, early their first year, late their first year, all their quarterback ratings are in the 80s. Once you get to year 2, year 3, year 4, the quarterback ratings are in the 90s. Yep. So the thing we talk about, there's statistical proof that, yes, the longer you can wait to start a guy, in totality, the better off you're going to be. Now, again, are there outliers? Sure. C.J. Stroud, yes. We saw what Jaden Daniels did last year. But there's a cemetery filled with guys who started too quick, were thrown in there too fast. Matter of fact, Anthony Richardson might open up his own.
Yeah,
he might end up being the Wikipedia picture of this before it's over with.
If Daniel Jones has to start any game this year and it's not because AR-15 got injured, then, yeah, I think we can go ahead and toss him on the heap.
Yeah, I mean, but again, a lot of these guys fail because of the organization, because you just don't do it right. There's almost something to be said, like in this year's draft. Look, I as the more I've studied this and listened to people who know a heck of a lot more than me, I've started to have more thought that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders put in the right situations could be franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Especially Sanders in the right situation. But are you going to get the right situation? Like Cam Ward, let's look at the Tennessee Titans right now. The offensive line, not good. The offense in general, not good. You've got a head coach who had a terrible first season. He's an offensive guy, but Will Levis got worse, not better.
Yep.
So you're getting put in a situation where, by the way, the last 5 years, you know what team has drafted worse than the Tennessee Titans?
Nobody.
How about nobody?
Yeah. Been pretty atrocious.
So this is the situation you're going to throw Cam Ward in. Now, again, could Cam Ward come in and sprinkle magic like a C.J. Stroud or a Jaden Daniels? Make it happen. I mean, who knows? No one thought C.J. Stroud would do what he did his rookie year. But usually you put these guys in these situations, and then you say, go start right away, because we need to start that rookie contract clock, so get your butt out there. And you can wreck careers. I mean, if you have no offensive line to protect him, he's going to get killed. If you have no receivers that can get open, that's not going to help you. If you don't have a running game to make it balance and take pressure off of him, that's not going to work. If your defense is terrible and you got to have him out there throwing the ball 40 times a game, that doesn't help. Do you have a system of offense that fits his skill set? What are you doing? Are you building your offense around what he does well? All these things matter, man. So, Cam Ward, has got a lot of ability and a lot of things that are positive, but you drop a guy into a bad situation, you're putting him behind the 8 ball, just like Shedeur Sanders. If I'm Shedeur Sanders, I don't want the Giants to come near me.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. And, I mean, their offensive line is, weapons are, I mean, they're just, and they have, and Brian Dable didn't show you what happened with Daniel Jones? He had that good first year, a solid first season under Dable. They gave him money they should have never gave him, and then everything went to hell. So it's not like you're going to a guy who you're going to guarantee is going to make you better. Yeah, did Brian Dable make Josh Allen better, or did Josh Allen make Josh Allen better?
I think Josh Allen made Josh Allen better.
I mean, that's the thing. So anyway, there's so much to this. So we'll see. All right, Firehouse Sub text the hour next, 803-404-6100. We're hanging out here talking football in the 1 o'clock hour. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford, halftime show in the game. Firehouse Sub text line 803-404-6100. Wow me and dazzle me. I'm telling you right now, the last couple of weeks, our texters have been crushing it. What do you got?
Colby says Diet Coke is the wackest thing in the world.
The wackest?
So, are you familiar with whack? Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know the slang of whack?
Yes.
Use it
Fred
as,
Flintstone and I used
use it
to.
in a sentence.
What did Whitney Houston say, Dave? Crack is whack.
Yeah, Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, crack is whack. She liked herself, I guess, some.
Yeah, allegedly.
Back in the day, allegedly.
So yeah, whack is a not good thing. So Colby not on the Diet Coke train, much like Dave is.
I'll tell you,
his own
I'm
personal experience.
Not good with Diet Coke. Now, did Colby also date your ex, Dave?
We cannot confirm or deny that.
Maybe
I'd help him if he did.
Maybe the Diet Coke is whack because he dealt with someone who.
Well, that's the thing is like, is it whack because of your own personal experience with it, or is somebody
Just the taste
put you off it?
Could be.
Like to me, the taste isn't terrible. I don't go out of my way for it, but if you gave me one, I'd drink it.
It's got to be super cold for me to drink it.
Okay.
I just can't. I can't. And once that loses that aftertaste, man, I can't.
If there's nothing else.
Well, that's what it is. Like if I'm out of like regular Coke, and I'm thirsty, because I do believe that when I was in the crib, they gave me Coca-Cola. I really, because I've been drinking Coca-Cola my whole life.
Yeah.
So if I don't have any Coca-Cola and I'm really thirsty and I want a shot of soda, and all I see is in the refrigerator is that bleeping Diet Coke of my girlfriend's, and I make sure nobody sees me, I'll take a shot of that. Yeah. I'll pour a little bit and take a hit of that because I need it. But nah.
She doesn't count them like my ex-wife did.
No, but I'll tell you this though, honestly, she's not that out of control. But if I was sitting there drinking that thing, she'd probably look at me and go, "Oh, you drank all yours, now you're going to kill mine too?" And I'll be like, "No, I hate this stuff. I just need something cool."
Now, will you drink Pepsi?
Oh, yeah. I'm good with Pepsi.
Okay. Because some people are like,
nah,
one or the other.
I'm not that guy. I can drink Coke, Pepsi, love Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper's
I can't do it every day, but every now and then.
It's a nice little change of pace.
Love me some
And I
Dr.
will say,
Pepper.
if you're looking for Diet Dr. Pepper is also really good because what makes Dr. Pepper good, the peppery flavor, that has nothing to do with sugar.
Oh,
so
okay.
the Diet actually tastes pretty similar to the
Very
original.
interesting.
So if you're looking to cut the sugar back or whatever,
I
good
like
option
extra. I
for
like
you.
extra sugar. I'm on a heavy sugar diet. That's just
Try the Dr. Pepper cream soda sometime.
You know what's funny? At SEC Media Days, they have every flavor of Dr. Pepper known to man because it's SEC Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
I love the cherry Dr. Pepper. There was one there. I think it was the cream. It was solid.
Cream soda, yep.
There was another one there that was experimental that was god-awful, and I can't think of what it was now. It was terrible.
I tried this. Was it strawberry?
Yeah, and I love strawberry.
Yeah.
It just didn't work.
I didn't love it.
I was not happy. I was very disappointed because I love strawberry.
Sure, makes sense.
Like strawberry milkshakes are my go-to.
Yeah.
I love strawberry. So I got that Dr. Pepper, man. It was in the cooler. I'm like, oh, cool, strawberry Dr. Pepper. And I went, goo, 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 goo.
Can't win them all.
Not good.
Worst thing in the world is spiced Coca-Cola.
That sounds hideous.
It is terrible.
Now,
That
okay,
sounds
did you ever have the cinnamon Coke they had a couple years ago at Christmas time?
I did not do that.
That was really good, and they've not brought it back. But
interesting.
It was a limited time thing at Christmas one year. Very good.
If they ever do it again, I'll snag it because your eyes are like all your eyes are all sparkly talking
Honestly,
about it.
I did the orange, some orange Coke they have now, orange cream or something like that. Not terrible. Not my favorite, but not terrible.
I did see that. I didn't try it.
What about Passover Coke? It's out right now.
What is that?
Passover Coke.
Passover Coke?
Yeah, it's got real sugar in it.
Oh, really?
It's also Mexican Coke.
They used to call it Coke Life. That was a thing like 10 years ago with Coke with real sugar was Coke Life.
Blanking on that one.
They sold it maybe, you know what? I was in Europe. That's where I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that when you were in Europe, your time?
Yeah,
Is that when you saw it? Okay.
my week in Europe.
Yeah.
My one time going abroad, they had Coke and they had Coke Life because it was
Did you
made
try
with
Coke Life?
real sugar. It was good because it had real cane
it's
sugar
like real
in it.
sugar. I'm in.
Yeah. So, yeah, if that's what they're calling it now, Passover Coke, I guess.
Now, do you do the light ones like the 7-Ups, the Sprites? You guys in any
I
of
do
that?
occasionally. I'm a soda fiend.
Same
I
here.
drink sodas
Same here.
constantly. I probably shouldn't drink as many
Same
as I
here.
do. But anytime I stop at the gas station, I'm like, let me go get a Mountain Dew or something.
I love my dad to death. My dad was like, here, have a soda. Just there was not a whole lot of
the
milk.
formula of 7-Up. It's not.
I haven't tried a 7-Up in a long time.
Not the same.
Really? Okay.
I drink a Sprite on occasion.
Yeah, I got nothing against any of that stuff.
Yeah. If I need a little kick, Mountain Dew.
I'll tell you this: they see now Mountain Dew. When I was a kid, that was like your energy drink.
Yeah.
It was like you're in college, you were like shotgunning Mountain Dews to stay awake to be able to do
They got about half the caffeine of a Monster.
Yeah. So I've never done any of the energy drinks.
I can lead you on that path,
I know
too.
you can. No thanks. My energy drink is coffee.
Actually, I'm mad. I forgot mine today. I'm slipping a little bit.
What?
Yeah. If you haven't seen me
You
yawning
usually have
today.
one like
I know.
glued to you, man.
Usually. I'm not as bad as Elijah, but...
Oh, well, Elijah.
Elijah just straight lines them.
I was here. He main lines a energy drink. It's crazy. You can just see his heart shooting out of his chest while he's sitting there. All right, we get you what's trending at 2 next here on the Halftime Show. Get you some more Shane from the Welcome Home Tour in Florence. That's coming up on the game. Halftime show. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. What's trending at 2, obviously, Shane Beamer doing the Welcome Home Tour in Florence last night. You know, we get texts, we get calls, we also get emails. An emailer say, wait a minute, run it by me again. You said Cam Pringle didn't like where he was at on the depth chart, but we thought Shane Beamer said there were no depth charts. Well, Shane Beamer said that a player who transferred out very recently saw he wasn't on the 2 deep. So he decided he was going to look elsewhere for playing time. So if you have a 2 deep, what is that, Tyler?
It sounds like a depth chart that apparently they don't have or didn't have last week.
Exactly. And we didn't say it. Coach Beamer in that cut said it.
Well, I guess, does a 2 deep mean A and B and you're a C?
So you're a C or a D or an E or whatever, so you move on.
And look, again, these, end of spring meetings are going on. So they have to have something laid out of the hierarchy of each position saying, here's where you are compared to these other guys, so they kind of know where they stand. So while in theory, maybe it's not a depth chart specifically, they have a good idea of the pecking order of each position at least.
Yeah. So I just want to explain that. To be clear, Shane said this player wasn't on the 2 deep, which tells us there's a 2 deep. We didn't say it. Shane Beamer said it.
He was using the word at least 3rd string, if not worse.
All right. So just to clear that up. We always appreciate emails, texts, calls, whatever the case. So thank you. All right. Let's get to Shane Beamer, cut 5. Shane talking at the Welcome Home in Florence, Dave. Rethinking about how you build rosters every year in this new world we're in college athletics. Hit it.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's truly year to year, the roster that you're building because of that, but then just the rules, the laws, whatever, they're ever changing. I feel like every year that I've been the head coach of South Carolina, it's something different, the terrain that we're navigating and then the rules we have. And even now, it's tough because you're trying to base decisions on building your roster, but you're basing those decisions what you think is going to happen with a lawsuit all the way out in California. And that could go either way. So it's a challenge right now for sure. You just kind of take it day by day, and here's what the aspects are today, knowing that it may change next week, next month, next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you're building rosters for now. It's tough to have any kind of, besides the idea you want to recruit guys and develop them and keep them in your program. But then again, all the factors around that, you don't know what they're going to be from year to year. And let's say this House thing finally gets settled. That's good, because then what happens is there's going to be a wave of lawyers who are dropping lawsuits saying, wait a minute, you can't cap how much money these kids can get because it breaks what, Tyler?
Antitrust.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't have an NI. You can't have a collective clearinghouse which looks at every deal individually and tells you if you can do it or not, if it's right, if it's market value. Why? If you did that, Tyler, what are you doing?
Violating antitrust.
So guess what's going to happen? Back to court we go, baby.
Unless... Take it away.
Collectively bargain. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying there's not a lot of hoops to jump, but if you truly want to stop most of this...
That's the solution.
That's the solution.
Whether you can get there or not, we'll see.
But that's your solution.
That would, because, again, that means everybody's agreeing to the same set of rules, and you can put some form of parameters on this. And I brought up the point earlier on, you got to give credit to Coach Beamer, because in every single year that he's been a head coach, it's all changed drastically, because he came in, when he comes in early 2021, there is no NIL. Halfway through the year, there is. And then every single year, there's new things about the portal of who can go in. And when you have to sit out, you don't have to sit out. Like, it's changed constantly. And outside of 1 year, they've done a good job bringing in talent and obviously being successful on the field.
It's craziness. It just is. Look, I'm not feeling sorry for guys who make millions of dollars to coach football, but still, those guys, the world has totally changed from everything they ever knew, and now they're all trying to learn stuff that, by the way, might go away as soon as they learn it.
And again, we go back to a guy like Nick Saban, who a year ago basically said, hey, I don't like the way this stuff's going. And it wasn't just because of transfers. It wasn't just because of NIL. It was everything. And again, the way that he built and created a successful program at Alabama, that way of college football was long gone. And it's like, okay, I'm 70-something years old. Do I really want to sit here, have to reinvent the wheel every single year, or can I just be done with it? And he decided to be done with it.
I think I remember reading his tipping point was before the college football playoff game, guys, because again, Saban's old school. You should be locked in, getting prepared to play in a college football playoff game that if you win it, you can go play for a national championship.
Yep.
And in the world of Saban, which Nick's not wrong, everybody should be totally zoned on that one thing.
Yep.
We had dudes coming in and asking for NIL money for next year. Yeah, guys coming in and going, so Coach, let's talk about NIL for next year. And he's like, I can't do this. That was that Jenga game? That was when everything fell.
Yeah.
Dude was done. He's like, this isn't what I signed up 4 years ago. Now again, if those guys come to you at the end of the game when your season's over and says, okay, let's talk about NIL money, you'll go,
okay. Because now you've moved on to the next year.
Yeah, but when you are playing the most important game of your season, that seriously matters for a lot, and you're going, hey Bob, let's talk about NIL, Coach. What do you say?
How about you go watch Michigan tape?
Yeah, I understand some of the old heads and saying I didn't sign up for this, and you've really seen it in basketball with Krzyzewski, Tony Bennett, guys like that are going, I don't really want to deal with this, and they move on, and it's just tough. Again, not poo-pooing for dudes making a lot of money, but if you're in that world and you're a college coach today. Oh, good luck.
And again, there's no gate around it.
Right.
So it's just going in its own direction. You don't know where it's going to head or how it's going to change, in the next couple of years. And again, we look at revenue sharing as not the end-all, be-all, but some form of structure coming to it. Like I said, there's no guarantee on that. There's still a lot of hoops that got to be jumped through and a long line of lawyers waiting to take them to court over a million other things as soon as this thing goes through. And then obviously figuring out what that means for every school and the money and all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to end anytime soon.
And Congress is not going to bail you out, NCAA. Please stop.
That ship sailed a long time ago.
Please stop. You can sit up there and you can roll lobbyists. You can send coaches and ADs and presidents, and you can send Tim Tebow, for the love of God. The Congress is not going to bail you out of this. It's going to be some type of collective bargaining agreement between all the powers that be that are involved, that everybody will go, I don't like everything, but I like enough. Let's sign it and let's move on.
If Congress was not going to get it done in an election year, they're not going to get it done.
No, it's just not going to get it done. Because, look, in the scope of most of our worlds, this is very low on the list of things that matter. Let's just be honest.
Right.
And so they're not going to bail you out. You're going to bail yourself out. And, look, I know, there's all these conversations. Do you then make these players employees? They'll have unions. And then all this other stuff. None of this is easy. But you have to figure out a way, however you do it, to bargain with everybody that's involved, to come with an agreement that you're going to have to change every 5 years, and that's how you got to roll to keep this thing out of court. Because even when people will take you to court, like Maurice Clarett took the NFL to court about the draft, guess what? There was a binding agreement between players and owners that said no. And at the end of the day, that held up in court over everything else. So this is where you got to get, man. And I love people hate it and hate hearing it, but that's just the reality where we're at. All right, baseball tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch here on the game, South Carolina, and a North Florida team that the Gamecocks should handle. Whether you handle them by 1 run, 111 runs, you should handle your business tonight. Safe to say?
You should. And again, we've seen them do that against pretty much every single mid-major opponent they face. No reason to think this can't be any different. Hopefully you're not overconfident after your series win against Ole Miss over the weekend to where you're overlooking this midweek opponent before going on the road to Kentucky this weekend. Again, you're more talented than this team is, and if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, you should be fine. And again, you have zero margin for error. We focus on the conference series and all that kind of stuff, but you can't afford a loss like this if you're trying to keep those postseason hopes alive. And again, very slim right now. They got to do a lot of heavy lifting in the next couple weeks to make that possible, but you're still alive technically, and don't lose to North Florida and hurt your chances.
Right, and so Coach Maneri, one of the things this year has been trying to figure out offensively who's going to bat third, right? They've gone through this in many different ways. They've tried, dropping Nathan Hall in the order, dropping Ethan Petrie to the 3-hole, putting Hall down to where you're maneuvering other guys in there. Again, this has been a mismatch to try to figure out who's going to bat third in this order. Here's Coach Maneri. It is cut 3, Dave, figuring out the 3-hole in the lineup.
Well, last weekend against Texas A&M, Jordan had a multitude of really big hits for us. Probably had the at-bat of the year late in the game against Texas A&M on the final day. I think he must have fouled off 7 or 8 pitches with 2 strikes and then got a 2-run single. So, listen, everybody can have a bad day or a couple of bad days. The game we won the other night, our 2-hole Henry Kazmar and Jordan Carrion combined for 7 strikeouts between them, 2 and 3-hole, and yet we won the ball game because other guys rose up and did some important stuff for us. Baseball's a hard sport, man. It's just, guys, sometimes it looks like they're not even trying, but they are. It's just a difficult sport, and Jordan's done really good things for us all year, and I might take him out of the 3-hole tomorrow night, just take a little pressure off of him and see if we can get him back to feeling good at the plate. But, yeah, he had a rough time this past weekend for sure, and and so did some other guys, but other guys rose up, and that's what a team is all about. Is somebody doesn't do it, somebody else steps up and does, whether it's on the mound or whether it's at the plate. But certainly not going to give up on Jordan Carrion. He's done a lot of good things for us this year.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, sure, you guys have bad weekends. It just happens. Carrion on the year has been one of their better hitters, in about 288. So again, it's been a weird year consistency wise. You've only had a couple of guys who have been upper level hitters all year, and everybody else has kind of had their moments, had their streaks of good and bad and whatever the case. Obviously, Nathan Hall has been the best overall hitter this year. Ethan Petrie is also, he's hitting 333, he's slugging over 600. His on base percentage, his OPS is over 1,000. But Ethan Petrie's had some issues at times this year hitting with runners on base.
Yep.
Again, I'm not giving him anything to hit anyway. If it's me, I'm just putting him on first because nobody behind him scares me. Carrion, doesn't hit for a lot of power. He's only got 360 slugging percentage and a 333 on base. But he has had some big hits, like Coach Maneri says. Bo Hollins. Bo Hollins had a nice freshman year, hitting over 300. Kazmar started really slow, right?
Yep.
But he's gotten it going as the year goes on. But he's not a guy that's hitting for a ton of power. He's only slugging 423. This team just doesn't have a lot of power. And that's the issue. If you look at right now, the way this thing is built, you got 3 dudes whose slugging percentages over, 4 who are slugging percentages over 500. 2 are right at 500. Woda, Evan Stone, and Bo Hollins are right at 500. Over 500 is only Petrie and Nathan Hall. Just not a lot of power on this baseball team, and that's a thing. But you got to scrap and scrape for runs, and you got to do other things to score if you're not hitting the ball out of the yard. And they're near the bottom of the SEC offensively, but because the pitching has been such a thing, especially the bullpen, there's some nights we go, well, they were good enough to win offensively, and they just.
Yeah.
Bullpen let them down or whatever.
Again, this past weekend was the first time they were able to put together on both fronts against a quality opponent for at least 2 games, and had great starting outings from your 2 starting pitchers there in Stone and McCoy, and the offense was able to back it up, and then it kind of went sideways on Saturday, so you kind of got a taste of both. So again, you're going to have to be able to replicate those performances of Thursday and Friday to be able to win these series and a lot more games going forward.
Good news, you won 2 out of 3.
Yes.
Over Ole Miss, your first SEC series win. Hopefully you can stack them. You got Kentucky coming up. You're on the road. Kentucky just went to Tennessee and won 2 out of 3 over the Vols, but they are 8-10 in league. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. More from Shane coming up next, as he was in Florence last night here on the Game. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions here on the game. What's trending also is NBA playoffs are rolling. Look, last night, so I'm watching the Knicks and the Pistons. And I know you're not as much of an NBA head there, Tyler, but I watched game 1.
Uh-huh.
And for three periods, for 3 quarters on Saturday, the Detroit Pistons played phenomenal. Had an 8-point lead going to the fourth quarter at the Garden, and then they soiled themselves on national television. They couldn't make a three, couldn't make a dunk, couldn't make anything. Knicks going to 21-0 run and buried them, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, how are they going to be in game 2? Was that, their moment? They led for 3 quarters, got rolled in the fourth quarter, and now they're going to get swept. So it would be interesting to see how they played in game 2. Well, game 2, they've got a lead going to the fourth quarter, and they held on. The Knicks even tied it late.
Right.
And I was like, okay, here's where the Knicks win the game. But then, and this is the thing about the NBA, or sports in general. We always look at the stars and the big-time players, and we always, they stepped up in a big-time moment. Those guys, it just cements their greatness or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then, a dude who has no business making a play makes a play. Dennis Schroeder of the Detroit Pistons takes a cold-blooded 3. I guarantee you on the bench, J.D. Bickerstaff, the head coach, is going, no. Good shot. Nice shot, Dennis. He hit a huge shot with less than a minute left to give Detroit the 3-point lead, and they held on and won. And, I mean, what a win. You choked it bad in game 1, right? And you're a young team. Your franchise hasn't won a playoff game since my youngest kids were born.
It was 2008, 17 years ago.
Yeah, and so you have no legacy on the roster of guys who have really done a lot postseason wise, and then you just crapped yourself in game 1, and now you're tied again in game 2 late, and what happens? You find a way to win. That was great. And again, I think the Knicks win the series, but I just watch it going. I give the Pistons a ton of props for a team that young, who has no clue how to win those kind of games, and the fact that you had a chance to win the first one and you were god-awful when it mattered, to come back and win that game was really a thumbs up for them last night.
So, like I said, last time they won a playoff game was in 2008. There were only 7 active players that were still in the league at that point in time. Can you name those 7 players?
No. Give me a minute here. LeBron, obviously.
Yep.
Jeez. Oh, there's LeBron. I did take me too long. I'm just trying to think right now. Is there anybody off the top of my head that I could? Not Harden, right?
Not Harden. So you got LeBron, Durant.
Oh, Durant's right. Durant was in Seattle. He was picked by the Seattle Supersonics. That's true.
Which also shows you how long ago that was.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Conley.
Oh gosh.
Al Horford.
Oh, you know what? I should have got Al. That's the one I should have got. I should have got Al Horford. He's 100 years old.
Chris Paul.
Yeah, I should have got Chris Paul.
Kyle Lowry and Jeff Green.
No, I never would have. I forget Jeff Green's even in the league.
Yeah, they were the only active players that were in the league 17 years ago when the Pistons last won a playoff game.
Out of those, I should have just got Horford.
For perspective, I was in, because I'm in May, I was in my last month of 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
The last time they won a playoff game.
My youngest kid wasn't born yet. That was 2000. What year?
8.
No, he was a year old. My youngest kid was a year old the last time the Pistons won a playoff game.
Wow. You know, it's really funny because Detroit has suffered so much as a sports fandom in general. Now they're finally starting to turn the corner a little bit.
I mean, the Pistons are in the playoffs. The Lions are looked at as one of the best teams in the NFL. Tigers in the playoffs last year.
2 years ago, the Pistons couldn't buy a win.
Awful. The thing about this, though, how everything's turned. For years and years and years, while Detroit struggled as a sports city, there was one constant. The Red Wings were really good.
That's true.
And the Red Wings have been for a while now. So right now, the Red Wings are the worst franchise.
They had to sacrifice the Red Wings for everybody else to be good.
They had a big meeting, right? One of those
listen, you guys have had your success.
Right. Now you got to spread it around.
We're gonna turn the tables a little
It's sort
bit.
of like that. And if someone doesn't know the story, like the old story about the blues singer Robert Johnson, The Crossroads.
Yes,
where he sold the soul,
sold the devil.
sold the soul to the devil.
So he could play blues.
And so basically, they had a crossroads meeting with the Pistons and said, okay, you now have to give up winning so we can help the other three.
You're gonna have to take that lucky horseshoe. You're gonna have to divide it up and give it to the other teams in the city for a while.
And you've got to suck for a bit.
Yes,
For the
you're
good
gonna
of the
suffer.
cause. For the good of the cause.
You got passionate fans that are gonna show up regardless. We
Yep.
need our time to shine.
They're still going to throw
'Cause
octopus or octopi on the ice. So.
They're going to foreclose on Ford Field if you don't turn this around with the Lions.
And by the way, last night, Kawhi Leonard was unbelievable last night. Scored 35 points, only missed like was he 15 to 19? Kawhi Leonard was ridiculous last night. Of course, by game 4, he'll be out with a sore knee. Scored 39 last night, 15 to 19 from the floor, and he was just making buckets. And every now and then when he's healthy, he reminds you how good he is. Last night was a night of Kawhi Leonard just saying, hey, by the way, guys, when I actually am healthy, I'm really good at this basketball thing.
Yeah, well, God, he's been around forever at this point.
And I thought, was it Barkley last night, I think, said it? He goes, Kawhi Leonard's one of those guys, because usually when you're hurt a lot, obviously you're not the same player because you're breaking down because of injuries. He goes, Kawhi Leonard's the one dude, when he comes back and he's healthy, he's still as good as he has always been in some way, shape, or form. And then he gets hurt again. And then he comes back and he shows he's really good. Then he gets hurt again. It's a shame because Leonard is so skilled. We would be looking at him on a totally different level if he could have stayed healthy through his career. It's a shame. But last night, that series with the Clippers and Nuggets has been phenomenal. It's 1-1 right now. And the first game went to overtime. So that was, and the Nuggets got off a terrible last shot to tie it. By the way, it was awful. And, tonight again, what are the Lakers going to do? How are they going to bounce back against the Timberwolves at home? What are the Grizzlies going to do after they were de-pantsed in front of the whole world by the Thunder?
See, I think if you get beat by 51 in a playoff series, that's just in the series. I think it should be over.
That thing was terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
What Oklahoma City did to Memphis, honestly, it should have been rated like R or NC-17. It was hideous. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the Pacers will eventually beat the Bucks. I mean, Damian Lillard's back, but it doesn't matter. He didn't play any defense, so we'll see where that goes tonight. But yeah, I mean, and then Golden State doesn't play tonight against Houston. So last night was good. Tonight we'll see what happens in the NBA. NHL playoffs are going. Ovi got an overtime goal for the Caps last night as they beat the Canadiens. Caps are the 1 seed. Canadiens are like the 8 seed. So we'll see where that goes. I love Stanley Cup playoff hockey. I love it. I don't keep up with the regular season like I used to, but I've been looking at all the experts who watch every game, and they're looking at either Florida and Tampa in the Stanley Cup final to take on either Vegas or, who was it? I'm blanking. Vegas or, I got to look at the Western Conference standings real quick. Vegas or Dallas. Or the winner of Dallas, Colorado, or Vegas.
4 known tundras: Dallas, Vegas, Florida.
Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa.
Oh, it's so funny. It's like 2 of the best franchises in hockey are in Tampa and Florida.
I know.
I mean, Miami, roughly. Because, they do play a lot in the winter there when everything freezes up.
Yeah, totally.
Same thing in Vegas. When that desert freezes up.
When it dips below 80 degrees, yeah, the ice just freezes.
Well, it is. It's hilarious. Like the only one that we just brought up is Colorado.
And Canada can't buy a title for themselves.
They can't get one to save their life.
Like, this is our national sport.
And they're like, we've got all the ice. What are we doing here? Oh, man. Last night it was cool to see Ovechkin get the game winner. It's the first time he's ever scored a game winner in overtime in the playoffs.
That's surprising.
And by the way, he looks 60.
Yeah, he does.
With all the gray hair.
Yeah.
No teeth and everything. I started to like him when he celebrated with the Stanley Cup by just carrying around, pouring beer and getting drunk everywhere.
Yeah, it's my kind of guy.
Most of us regular dudes, that's what we would do with the Stanley Cup. Yes, absolutely. That's what's trending it too. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Hey, what is it, 22nd of April? It's the greatest day in the history of the world. We'll find out about that next here on the Halftime Show with David Ayer pushing the buttons, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. Greatest day in the history of the world is April the 22nd. Couple old school ones for you there, Tyler. 3 of them, because these are interesting. All right, 1876. The first official National League Baseball game is played with Boston beating Philadelphia 6-5. 1876.
I'm assuming that was...
No cable.
The Boston... No, that was before the Boston Braves,
before
right?
The Boston Braves. And it wasn't the Philadelphia Phillies. They didn't even put the nicknames on this thing.
Weren't they like the Boston Beans or something like that?
It was something kooky. It might have been the Philadelphia A's, because the A's, I believe, started in Philadelphia, and then they bounced around to multiple places before they ended up in Oakland. They were the Kansas City A's.
They were the Philadelphia Athletics.
And who were the Boston who?
Boston Red Caps, actually.
Can't believe we didn't get that one.
Yeah.
Red Caps. Okay. Which I guess led.
Okay, so the Red Caps I'm trying to see if who they ended up becoming.
Yeah. Because obviously the Boston Braves were the next iteration in Boston, and which led eventually to the
Red Caps did become the Boston Braves.
Okay. All right, and then the Boston Braves obviously moved to Milwaukee, which then they went to Atlanta.
Yes.
So there we go. All right, that's 1876. 1914, some dude named Babe Ruth played in his first professional game as a pitcher. People forget something. Babe Ruth was an excellent pitcher. He had World Series records.
He's the original Shohei Ohtani.
He was.
He's probably cooking about 80 over the plate.
Oh,
well, that was fast back then.
Absolutely. That was like 100. That was a hundy back then. Of course, he had a beer sitting next to him on the mound.
Yeah.
Hot dog.
He had a flask in his back pocket.
Exactly. And by the way, he threw a 6-hit shutout, 6-0 win. That was the thing, though, because he was such a good hitter. They were like, "Bub, we got to get your bat in the lineup every day. This is ridiculous."
Well, and that was before the age of specialization either. It's like, oh, hey, you can hit and pitch, go do it. Now it's such a. That's why Ohtani is such a big deal. It's like, oh my God, nobody does this anymore, because now it's like, okay, you're either going to be playing in the field and focusing on hitting, or you're going to just zero in on being a pitcher so you can be the best you can possibly be.
And the only reason Ohtani get away with it because he's so high level in both.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting part. Now, eventually, if he continues to have Tommy John surgeries, he might just be a hitter.
He's just going to be a hitter. So take in him pitching as much as you can right now.
This day in 1954, the NBA adopts a 24-second shot clock and the 6-team foul rule. Because, again, the NBA, you have to get 6 fouls to foul out.
Right.
And the 24-second shot clocks, the game got faster and more paced. And if you'll notice, a lot of high scoring in the early 60s.
I would say, well, you just handle the ball as long as you wanted to before the shot clock.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, I remember the tipping point in college basketball. North Carolina used to run the 4 corners under Dean Smith. And they did it in an ACC championship game. The score was like 6-2 at halftime or something brutal. And everybody was like, and they had a guy named Phil Ford who was a master at running the 4 corners at the point. And I can't remember the score. It was a low scoring ACC championship game. And everybody went, this is awful. This is God boring.
Yeah.
We got to put a shot clock in here. All right. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. 1981, Dodger rookie Fernando Valenzuela tosses his 3rd shutout in 4 starts. I'll never forget, I was a young Terry Ford when Fernando Mania was a thing across the country. Fernando Valenzuela was unbelievable. I believe won Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young. And that was right around. It was coming out of a strike, or it was a weird season because split everything up in first half and second half because of the strike and everything. But Valenzuela was phenomenal in his Dodger career, especially early on. He was unreal. And 1981, 3rd shutout in 4 starts. 1987, the NBA grants expansion franchises to Charlotte, Miami, Minnesota, and Orlando. Charlotte and Miami joined the league in 88-89. Minnesota, Orlando joined the league in 89-90. Charlotte's still an expansion franchise.
Feels that way.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's look at those 4. Orlando's been to the NBA Finals when they had Shaq Fu Kazam Daddy. They were in the Finals. Minnesota was a good team with Kevin Garnett. They got to the conference finals, I believe, and also Stephon Marbury. And now they're a good team again with Anthony Edwards and that crew. Miami has won the NBA championship 3 times and had been a really good franchise under Pat Riley. Charlotte Let's list all their trips to the finals.
I think you left one out.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Now, they were good for a bit when they had Larry Johnson, they had Grandmama, they had Alonzo Mourning, they had Muggsy Bogues. They were a perennial playoff team for a short period of time, and then it all went in the crapper. But out of those four, easily, it feels like Charlotte's been the worst of the four of those franchises who came in the league in the late 80s.
And just because you're owned by one of the best doesn't mean you end up becoming one of the best.
No, I think we've learned. I know, look, I'm a Michael Jordan guy. Let me get that out of the way now. I'm an MJ guy. Grew up watching Michael. I'm a Michael Jordan dude as a player. As an executive / GM / owner, he ain't very good in any of those.
Yep.
And we've seen it. All right, this day in 1990, Illinois quarterback Jeff George is the first picked overall by the Indianapolis Colts. $1 billion arm and a 10-cent brain is the best way to describe Jeff George.
I've heard about Jeff George.
He might have been the most hated teammate of all time. Not a great, he just didn't, I mean, it's a shame because Jeff George had arm talent for days.
Yeah.
But that was about the only talent he seemed to have.
In a way, if he had become a franchise quarterback, they'd never get Peyton Manning, 8 years later?
Yeah, so maybe it worked out.
Yeah,
that Jeff George was such a disaster.
So if your team has a busted quarterback right now, just think, hey, maybe you're only 7 or 8 years away from drafting your future Super Bowl MVP.
There you go. I like that. You put hope with everybody.
I'm trying.
You put hope with everybody.
I'm trying. So Titans, don't worry.
Another NFL draft nugget, 1995, Penn State running back Kajana Carter went for number 1 overall, blew out his knee in the preseason, and was a shell of his former self in college.
By the way, the concept of taking a running back number 1 overall.
I know. How the game has changed, my man.
I don't think we ever see that again.
If someone even said it in the war room, they would be fired immediately.
Probably.
Fired immediately. Greatest day in the history of the world here on the Halftime Show on the Game. This day in 2008, some dude named John Smoltz becomes the 16th pitcher in Major League history to reach the 3,000 strikeout plateau, I should say, as the Braves beat the Nats 6-0. Think about Smoltz, because we always talk about Maddox and Glavine and Maddox and Glavine.
Mm-hmm.
And we should. I mean, guys are Hall of Fame pitchers. They're phenomenal. Maddox is one of my favorite pitchers ever. Smoltz not only was a high-level starter, then came back later and became a high-level closer. I mean, and plus, let's talk about playoff money pitcher.
Yep.
John Smoltz, any other franchise would be building statues of John Smoltz.
Sure.
And he's always looked at as a number 3 guy behind Maddox and Glavine. Tell you another one in that same period of time. It's a shame he got hurt. Steve Avery was unbelievable.
Yeah, Poison Avery.
What a shame. That his early career, everybody thought he'd be the best of Smoltz and Glavine before they got Maddox. Everybody thought Avery was going to be the ace for years, and then, of course, he got hurt. Some nice pitching in Atlanta for a while there, my man.
Yeah, it's a good time. I was a little too young for it.
I was going to say, you missed out on that. You probably hear stories from your dad.
Yeah, my dad tells me plenty of stories about that. I've seen a World Series in my lifetime, so I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
I always feel that way, too. It's like, you know what? If I've gotten a chance to celebrate as a fan for my favorite team winning,
I'll take it.
I'm fine. After that, I'm fine.
The funny thing was the people the immediate next season in 2022 that immediately started freaking out about things. Yeah. Like, guys, come on.
Remember
the confetti's still on the street.
Yes. I mean, stop it. You still have the empty liquor bottles laying around the backyard.
Exactly.
Enough. All right, 2 more real quick. In this day in 2010, Oklahoma quarterback Sam Bradford, first pick overall by the St. Louis Rams. I'm going to say this. I'm going to try to defend Bradford for a minute. He could never stay healthy.
No, that was his biggest knock, and he got ample opportunities, but yeah, he was made of paper, it felt like.
I think paper was tougher. God love him. And again, in the moments he did play and he was healthy, you could see talent. He just could never stay healthy. And in this day in 2014, Albert Pujols becomes the first major leaguer to hit his 499th and 500th home runs in the same game. He was an Angel at the time when they beat the Nats 7-2. And Pujols, obviously, when Pujols was rolling through his prime, he was a career 300 hitter, career 400 on base percentage, and career 500 slugging percentage. I think his OPS was almost 1,000 lifetime until he obviously went past his prime and got into his golden years where his numbers started falling. Pujols was unbelievable. Unreal. All right, that's the greatest day in the history of the world, April 22nd. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour and the handoff with the postgame show is next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Firehouse Sub Text the Hour, 803-404-6100. Dazzle me with some texting there,
right.
Tyler Head.
People are running with this soda thing. Nameless texter, dark sodas in general, blah, Mountain Dew supremacy.
Hey, okay. hey, to each his own. I was never a big Mountain Dew guy. I just wasn't. And back in the day, and Jay Phillips is here with us on the handoff sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine. Now, back in the day, we used to drink like Mountain Dews. That was the energy drink of choice in our generation. Did you do Mountain Dews?
I have a friend who drank way too much Mountain Dew. And
we all know that guy.
He, you know, he had the leg jitter, and we were like,
the leg jitter.
We were like, man, you need to not drink so much Mountain Dew.
I very rarely drank it unless I really had to stay up for something.
It's just so. For one thing, it's just too sweet for me. But yeah, you're right. It was sort of the original. But here's the thing: it was never marketed that way.
No. I'll tell you this, because I wasn't a coffee drinker when I was young. I hated it when I was that
I didn't start
age.
drinking coffee till maybe senior year of high school, freshman year of college.
I couldn't do coffee because my dad's coffee was so vile. I didn't drink coffee. I think I told you. He made like Maxwell House.
Maxwell House in the percolator?
In the percolator.
Oh, heck yeah,
and by the way, he made it so thick, you had to eat it with a fork.
Well, you needed a new percolator like every 6 months.
Awful. I couldn't stand the smell of it. I hated it. Yeah. So I didn't drink coffee when I was like high school, college. I wouldn't drink coffee. So every now and then when I had to stay awake, I would knock off a Mountain Dew. But I only needed one because I never drank it. So, dude, I'm bouncing off walls. One Mountain Dew, man.
I never liked Mountain Dew, Melly. Any of the yellow, green, Sprite. I was a big, you know what I was a big fan of, man? Like any kind of orange soda. Fanta Orange.
I like Fanta Orange, man. Very underrated. Orange Crush was good.
Orange Crush.
They were good.
I remember my dad's parents moved into like a condo development over that way.
That way?
Yeah. And it had a pool. And every time, and I went over there a lot, but the pool had a Coke machine. And my grandmother would give me a quarter, and I'd get a Fanta grape.
I never had a Fanta grape.
That's Fanta grape. That's
never had a Fanta grape. I always had orange.
You've never had Fanta grape?
Never had Fanta
man,
grape.
that's
Fanta
the best.
grape, man. Yeah, but now I don't drink soda very often at all.
Really?
For a lot of reasons. I'm not Mr. Health Nut, as you all know, but Dr. Pepper.
I love a Dr. Pepper. I can't do them all the time, but occasionally I'll pop a Dr. Pepper. They're awesome.
If you say you got to pick a soda, I'm picking a Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love me a Dr. Pepper.
And, of course, going to media days where you get.
That's what we were talking about. What was the one? Was it the strawberry we were very disappointed in?
Strawberry was all right, but this past year they had the coconut one, and I'm telling you, that thing was good.
You know,
man.
that was good. The strawberry I didn't like.
I did not like the strawberry.
The coconut was surprisingly really good.
I was like, I'll try it. You know, I mean,
it was good.
Especially if you're in Dr. Pepper's hometown, you may as well try it.
Well, that's what we said.
The good doctor came by and was just like,
the good doctor was
really
nice to us.
Doctor?
Now, you don't do diet soda, do you? If you ever drink soda, do you do diet soda at all?
I mean, my wife likes Diet Coke and Diet Dr. Pepper, so occasionally, if that's all there is, I'd prefer not to.
Yeah, I can't do diet, man.
But Dr. Pepper would be top.
Dr. Pepper is really good. How about what's the other one? Fresca. Fresca?
I mean, I hate to say, Terry, last time I had a Fresca was probably Ronald Reagan's first term as president.
I never drank one, but I remember they were around in the 80s.
All I remember is Judge Smales in Caddyshack, you know, and he ruffles Danny's head. How about a Fresca?
How about a Fresca? Right.
That's their
remember this one. I'm really going to go old head, and Tyler's going to go what? Tab.
Tab?
I know about Tab.
Oh, Tab was my mom and her friends. That was their drink.
That was their
I
jam.
feel like, don't they still have Tab?
It's very limited, but the Coca-Cola company does still make it.
Okay, it's like Tab Diet Right. Those are still out there.
Yeah. Diet Right. There you go, man. Diet Right.
Isn't that RC?
Thank you.
Is Diet Right RC?
I think it's the same
company?
Because you can still find RC as well.
I love RC. I love RC.
But I'm saying, was Diet Right an RC product?
I think you're right.
I don't know.
I forgot about RC. I used to drink RC every now and then. I was a kid. I liked RC.
Cola. When I went on my
Knee-high grape.
When I went on my 8th grade trip to Washington D.C., for some reason my mom sent me with like a 12-pack of RC Cola. I don't know. I guess she found it on
RCs
sale.
are good.
RC's
it was good,
man.
You know, North Carolina's own Cheerwine is a nice.
That's my mom's favorite.
Yeah, Cheerwine is delicious.
Didn't have that up north. I did. I used to get knee-high grape all the time.
Dude, I think Cheerwine, it's weird, and I know this sounds silly, but until I was in college, so that'd be the early to mid '90s. I don't think you could even get Cheerwine in South Carolina. Basically, it was only in North Carolina, maybe a select few places. But it's almost like Smokey and the Bandit. Like it's like, what are we doing here? Like crossing the border.
Was this where you're running across state lines?
You can only get it in so many places.
Getting
like, why don't
chased by Jackie Gleason and his son?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's good. But yeah, we had a big thing about soda earlier.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I had a whole spiel going there. What's up on the old post-game show, my man?
Alan Cole's going to join us on a number of things. The Gamecocks looks like Carolina women's basketball gets a very big get, literally
That's a
and
good one.
figuratively.
It's a good one.
Yeah, more football, and we'll start talking about what we're doing for the draft.
Yeah, as the draft is, Tyler's done. Tyler wants the draft to
I
get
just
here
wanted to
now.
get it here.
He's had enough.
I'm
well,
ready.
and we're planning. I don't know if we'll plan it on air or not, but now that I work with a real bona fide football coach,